Good evening and welcome to Poker Night Live. If you have ever wondered how to play the game of poker, Texas Hold'em poker at that, or if you've been playing for a while now but need to improve on your technique and you need to win more than you are, then you have come to the right place. Tonight we are going to be watching Texas Hold'em poker in its pure form. That means we can see everything. We can see everybody's hole cards. It's a fantastic way to learn the game, and to help us along the way, I've also brought with me an expert, Caspar this evening. Hello, Caspar.
Oh, do you think I'm a help?
I think you will be a help, yes.
Some people would say the opposite. Call me a hindrance. I've been called a hindrance.
Tonight I've brought with me a hindrance that is Caspar, but no, that is a joke. You will learn more about poker tonight with Caspar here. There he is.
And will the jokes get better?
They hopefully will.
That wasn't a funny joke, was it?
It wasn't, but you laughed. There we go. Start as we mean to go on. Tonight, Caspar is going to be doing a commentary over all of the poker we watch. We're going to be watching cash games, tournaments, and hopefully a multi-table tournament a bit later on. I'm Michelle, your host for the evening, and what I need you guys to do is ask me questions that I can ask Caspar. If you have anything you would like to know about poker or about what has been said tonight, or even if you'd just like to comment on what you've seen, you can do. There's the text number, 62211. How much is it, Caspar?
£4 for a pound.
£4 for a pound. You can email as well, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And why don't you check us out on the World Wide Web, pokernightlive.co.uk. And there is a forum up there, and some really great chat goes on there. And also, if you want to really look in depth into a particular point, you can talk to the guys on the forum, because they do go for it on that as well, don't they? Well, as I said earlier, we're going to be watching a various different amount of tables tonight. So, Caspar, if you wouldn't mind taking us around them, have a quick look.
Let's have a look at all the tables. Here comes a $10 multi-table tournament. You can tell it's a multi-table because it's green. It's got that very specific green coloration.
It's got a lime green.
If ever we see a lime green table, we'll know that's a multi-table tournament. And the MTT also gives it away. This is just a sit and go, and you can tell that because it's blue. So if you see a blue table, well, it could be a tournament, it could be a cash table. But if it's a tournament, it's a sit and go. It's just a $2 one. A tiddler. This one, much less of a tiddler. This is a $5 sit and go. That's just finishing. But believe me, there'll be another one along soon.
Lovely.
They're like buses. And this is a $50 sit and go. I'll wager, and I am a gambling man, that we'll see some of this later.
So you are a gambling man then, Caspar?
Yes.
You have dabbled in the odd game of poker before?
The odd gamble. You?
Yeah, well, I started, as you well know, back in July. So not doing too badly. I'm on the 10 cent, 25 cents at the moment, and the $10 tourneys.
Buy-in.
10th buy-in. Don't really do the buy-ins.
No such thing as a bankroll, really. Play as you find.
So, you're our expert for the evening.
Apparently.
You're going to be commentating over all of our poker this evening and just giving over all of it.
Yep.
And hopefully we're going to be looking a bit deeper into some of the hands we've been watching tonight.
Are we?
Yes, because we are going to explain to our new viewers exactly how to play the game of poker.
Yes.
It's your job.
Yes.
But also a lot of our viewers have been watching for a few months now, and those need to know slightly more about what we're doing.
Tricky, isn't it? Tricky to know where to pitch it, because of course tonight is a beginner's night, but so many of the people that started off with us as beginners are now pretty advanced, aren't they? Moving on to the pros. So yeah, we're going to try and give that usual uneasy mix of really beginning stuff and a little bit more advanced. We'll give it a bash. You'll keep us right, if not with emails, then on the forums.
They certainly will. And do let us know throughout the night through email or text if there's anything in particular you would like Caspar to discuss. A lot of you that watch a lot will know that his analysis is brilliant. So if you have anything in particular, being very nice to you this evening, if you have anything in particular you would like us to talk about, do make sure you get it into us.
You are paid
do we
to
have
say
a
that.
theme?
A theme?
A theme for the evening?
Well, I like themes to emerge gradually, because I tell you what, when I usually set a theme for the evening, after the first hour, no one texted about that theme, and we get on to a different theme. So let's end that charade and go freeform, and let it emerge organically, bubble up.
Or we can let the viewers pick.
We can let the viewers pick, I don't mind.
If you would like us to have a theme for this evening, sometimes we do trivia, like poker trivia, not normal trivia. Sometimes
we do normal trivia.
Sometimes we do anything. Sometimes we talk about specific cards and or specific types of poker. If you have anything you would like to be the theme for this evening, that by which we mean...
Do you know what I did think?
Go on.
Do you know what I quite like? Is if you had to have a poker persona as based on a character in films, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Is it?
Yeah,
well, we'll
we
give
like
it a bash.
that one. Okay, if you can think of a better one, do email in or text. But otherwise, let us know. A persona of a movie star.
Yeah, and more of their character that they play. But it could be a movie star. Movie stars tend to be quite bland as characters, don't they? But the characters that they play. So would it be Hannibal Lecter? Would it be Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull? Would it be Forrest Gump? Would you be a complete idiot?
Julia Roberts in Ocean's 11, I reckon she can play a game of poker.
Could be Julia Roberts in Ocean's 11. So if you had to project a certain persona at a poker table to give people the wrong impression of who you are, who would it be? Which character and why? And also, what would you do in order to convey that impression?
Okay.
There you are, it's a theme already.
Right, there we have it.
We'll go to a different one after an hour.
Thank you, Caspar. Right, so what do you fancy start? I always let the expert decide what game we start with.
Oh no, it's just like you. $50 sit and go.
Oh wow, okay. We'll go into the big money straight away. Okay, there it is. This is a $50 sit and go. And what exactly does that mean, Caspar?
Well, if you must ask. This means that 8 people.
Do you want me to Right, I'll stop laughing and take over. Caspar is making shapes with the chips, everybody. That's making us laugh. It's very unprofessional.
It's completely accidental.
Very accidental. So let's start with the names on the game. So let's start with Big Ad at the top. There he is. And Loomis is playing in seat 2. And we have Albus Fawkes, who's one of our regulars here at Poker Night Live. Caspar, stop it now. We have Big Shan there at the bottom. We've got Peanut, 22. Look, we have Making Jam in seat 6. Nap Hands in seat 7. And L Pig in the top left seat there. So a few players that we do know already here tonight that we've seen around.
Absolutely. I do apologise for that, folks. That was completely accidental. Just made us go. Regular viewers will know that we like that sort of family atmosphere here on Poker Night Live. It's what makes us who we are. Let's talk about a $50 sit and go. How does it work? What's the structure of the game? First of all, this is a tournament. A tournament. What does that mean? There are 2 ways to play poker. You can play tournaments or you can play cash games. Now in a cash game, you come to the table with a sum of money, you buy in for a certain number of chips, could be $50, could be $5, could be $5,000, could be $50,000, and you play for as long or as short a time as you want. Could be 2 hands, could be 2,000 hands. And at the end, when you've got, you could be up, you could be down, you could be exactly the same as what you had at the beginning, you can take that to the cash-in, you can cash out. And that's a cash game. That's not what this is. This is a tournament. And it's a big tournament. It's a $50 sit and go tournament. So what does that mean? It means all the players around this table, all 8 of them, have paid $50 to play in this game. Okay? That's created a prize pool, obviously, of 400, which is 50 times 8. Now, in actual fact, if we're being really pedantic, they have paid $55 to play in this game because they're also all paying 10% of the buy-in to the house. Those $5 from each player goes to the organiser of the game, the internet site that's spreading it. There's nothing underhand or illegal about that. That's their payment for spreading this game here tonight. So $50 in, prize pool of $400, and that is going to be won by the people who come first, second, and third. First is going to get 50%, second is going to get 30%, and third is going to get 20%. And if you've never seen a tournament before, stay tuned because you'll see how this pans out. Now, in order to win that money, they have to not lose all their chips. And not losing all your chips in a tournament is quite difficult because you also have to accumulate chips. Why do you have to accumulate chips? Because the blinds are going to go up and up and up. So unlike a cash game where you can sit there waiting for the best hands and play a very, very tight strategy if you wish to, but also play a very loose strategy, in a tournament you are pretty much forced to make more I was going to say make more decisions. That's not true. You're always making a decision, even if it's to fold your cards. But you need to play more hands. On the average, you'll be playing more hands than you would be playing in a cash game. So here we have 8 players. They're all competing for the money. None of them want to lose their chips and have to get up. All of them want to make the money. But all of them need to take a long-term expectation. And what we mean by that, folks, is they need to ask themselves, if I did this 100,000 times, not this once, but 100,000 times, would I make money? and that's a very, very important expectation for them, or a decision that they must make. Would it make money if I did this 100,000 times, and a random set of cards were to come out 100,000 times, and players who are playing against me would make their random decisions 100,000 times? I don't know what they're going to do, I don't know what cards they've got, I don't know what cards are going to come out, but if I was in this situation 100,000 times, would what I'm about to do now make money, or would it lose money? So the classic example of that in poker is if you're sitting there with something like 2-3 or 5-7 or 7-2, two cards which really aren't worth playing at the beginning. Of course, people say you could play them and it could come down 7-2-2 or 5-2-2, or give you a full house on the flop. Those three cards there in the middle of the table, they're called the flop. We'll have a look at those in a minute. You could play cards, and any two cards, of course, can win in the game of Texas Hold'em. But, and it's a big but, if you played them 100,000 times, would they make you money or lose you money? And that, if there is one, is the single most important thing that you have to think about in poker. If only it were that easy, Michelle.
If only it was, Caspar. I have to say, how ironic was the beginning to our show there, when we were just talking about when you watch the outtakes and people start giggling off each other. And then we went and did exactly that.
When were we talking about that?
Just before we come on air.
Oh, we were talking about it not before we come
on
air. Not very ironic for the viewers then who weren't part of that conversation.
Ironic for us.
Ironic for us, yes.
And yeah, so the tournaments I think are a good way to start because there's a structure and a beginning and an end.
Yep.
So it is a good way to watch. And as Caspar says, it is a to-the-death competition, so once these guys have lost their chips, they are out. And the last three left, I do believe, are actually in the money. So top place is going to take 50%. Second place is going to take 30%. And third place will take 20%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right, let's see what's happening in this game here. So Big Shan has got a pair of eights. Albus Forks has really not got much, to be honest with you. Don't know what he's still doing in his hand. Nap Hands has a pair of fives, so he's being beaten by Big Shan. So really cruddy hand is winning at the moment. Nap Hands really doesn't have much, to be honest. How's the betting going? Big Shan has an awful hand, doesn't know he has the winner.
So the betting structure is going to be exactly the same as a cash game.
Yes.
Obviously with the sit and go tables we're going to see those blinds raise. And I do believe that's every 10 hands, is it?
Every 10 hands, yes, absolutely. Now what's happened here is Big Shan has decided to raise it up with 10 queen suited. The key to poker is that on each betting street you need to equalise the bet of the highest better. So when Big Shan made it 80 to play, if anyone wanted to stay in the game, they had to call for 80. Had to call for 80. Big Ad has made his pair of threes there, and he's decided to bid with it. And I'll bet you Big Shan will call now with 9, 10, Jack, Queen. It's only just him and Big Ad in the hand. Call for 440 with 9, 10, Jack, Queen.
Okay, now the first decision you're going to have to make is...
Can't believe he's put that down.
What? Oh, sorry, missed it.
Yeah, Big Shan, he raised it in first position with 10 queen suited. He got one small stack against him with a pair of threes. And, I mean, he's a loose player. Look at him, he's calling an early position with 7-4, and he didn't want to call with his 4 to a straight draw. There we go. What were you saying?
The first two cards, we're looking at a 5-card hand here, so the first two cards seem very unimportant because they're only 2 of a 5-card hand, but it's going to cost you to see the next 3 cards. So these is a big decision to make. These 2 original cards are actually very important to the rest of the hand, even though there's only 2, you've only got 2 of the 5.
Yeah, well, wait, you've only got 2 of the 7, haven't you? Because there's another 5 to come out, giving you 7 in total, although the best 5 will play. Do you know what, Michelle? It's an age-old question in poker. How important are those 2 first cards? There are some people that are advocating, some people advocated sort of like 5-6 years ago. Certainly some people are advocating now that not raising before the flop is the way to go. And that really you would only want to raise with aces and kings, and because you'd only want to raise with aces and kings, you shouldn't even raise with them because it's just a giveaway, and so many cards you should just try and see the flop as quickly and cheaply as possible, and then outplay people there. So it's a really, it's a big old question in poker, there's no doubt about it. And as with many things on Amateur Night, there are very few easy answers.
Oh, well, look, there's a leaderboard there for this particular game. Now, this tells us who is chip leader, who has the most chips at this stage, and who has the least chips at this stage. As you can see, Big Shan there has 2,730 chips, making him the current chip leader, and Albus Fawkes is down at the very bottom there with just 480 chips, so he's got some work to do. But anything can change at the stage of the game, can't it?
Absolutely anything.
Okay, let's head back to the game.
Otherwise we'll get stat overload, won't we? Different game there.
Oh, we've gone to a multi-table tournament.
Now we can tell it's a different game, can't we? Because remember my tip earlier on? That is a green
something
table.
to do with the green.
Was a green table. Now it's back to a blue table.
Oh, so we're back to our sit and go tournaments. This is just the 10 of us playing here. Let's have a look at some of the hands he's playing with. People are playing with. There are nap hands there playing with a pair of sixes, and this is the middle pair. It looks quite nice at this stage. But, of course, that will change when the flop comes down. So now, look, everybody's folded this hand. Nap hands has come in just with the 40. Everyone's folded around to Big Shan. He's putting quite a large raise there. Quite nice with the pair of nines.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's not even a large raise, to be honest with you. He could even have bet a bit more there. So, yeah, perfectly good bet.
It's not a bad flop for a pair of sixes. I mean, the seven's a bit scary, but...
Yeah, but what's happened is the nines have bet into you there at that point. They raised big before the flop. So, you know, it's a judgment call. It's not the easiest laydown in the world, but at the same time, to be honest with you, it is a laydown I'd make. I wouldn't go all in there.
Yeah, so... Yeah, it's very risky to risk your whole tournament life on a pair of sixes. And a pair of nines called. It was a good flop for a pair of nines. 3 undercards.
Yeah, no, great flop for a pair of nines, and Big Shan definitely doing the right thing there. No doubt about it.
And what we're talking about here just goes to show you how the flop does change things. I mean, you have to work out what you've got against what other people have, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, this is the key thing, Michelle. As regular viewers will know, I get very boring about this, but what happens is when people first start playing poker, they pick up a book, and the book says you should only play ace, king, and aces and kings in the first 2 positions, and the second 2 positions you can loosen up to include ace, queen, and ace, jack, and a pair of queens and a pair of jacks. And if only, again, poker were so simple. I'm not saying that when we first start doing anything, whether it's tennis or poker or anything, we don't need guidelines, that's great. But what's really important to do is, as quickly as possible, hopefully, through watching Poker Night Live, to start taking a lot more things into consideration in your game. And the first thing you must start to work into a game is the understanding that your first 2 cards are just that. They're just your first 2 cards. So when people talk about, oh, I was beaten with a pair of queens, let's just cut that off to look at this hand here. L Pig has just flopped a straight, look. And Peanut has flopped 2 pairs, 10s and jacks. So we've got 10 jack, queen, king, ace versus 10 jack. And L Pig loves that, absolutely loves it. I wouldn't be at all surprised if L Pig takes all the money from Peanut here, but that king will change it, because Peanut will now be scared. He will now be scared. He'll be a little bit more scared of the 3 kings. I say that. He's not slowing down his betting. L Pig still has the straight, but has every right to be a little bit more worried about the 3 of a kind or bigger. Is
Peanut doing anything wrong here, though? We can see him coming. He's all in for his chips against L Pig, but is he doing anything wrong? He's got 2 pairs. It's a strong hand. Was L Pig saying to him, look, I do have a hand here? He's giving him the information. But at the same time, surely Peanut's going to say, well, 2 pair it sounds like a strong hand, but is it when you've got that much information?
I'm going to be honest with you, you know, the hand happened very quickly. We could sit and talk about it for the next 20 minutes. At the end of the day, it's difficult. It all happened very, very quickly, and they made their decisions in the spur of the moment. Whether the right decisions or the wrong decisions, the reason when I say we could sit here and discuss it for 20 minutes is literally Tom and I could sit here and construct perfectly good arguments for any single play in that situation. Do you know what I mean? You could say, well, when the king falls, that makes one person think that the other person is more likely to have X, or it makes it more easy for you to represent having X to the other person. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, it's difficult to say whether one person did the right thing or the wrong thing. The only thing I'll say is, and this is because it's a beginner night, for me they both played it too quickly. They both just put money into the pot. I mean, they spent $50 to sit down in this tournament. I want to have a little bit of thought about, well, what should I be doing? What are the possibilities? What could he have in this situation? I'm not saying they're not poker geniuses who are far better than me and can make faster decisions. That's great. But I just think, you know, if you're going to get into that situation where you're betting for most of your stack, take your time. Take your time, folks. And that, for me, is one of the big tips I always give to people starting. Take your time.
Because you are given a certain amount of time to act. It's usually about 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's have a look here. Big ad. Lumen says, made him fold. And I suppose that's half the battle. Even if you don't have the best hand, if you can make all your opponents believe you have the better hand and get them to fold, you still win the pot. Yeah,
and that's why by betting and raising, you give yourself two ways to win in poker. The first way is by still having the best hand, and the second way is by not having the best hand, but by getting other people to fold. Okay. Now, there are two things to say about that. Number one is the implication that therefore you need a better hand to call than you do to raise. All right? Because if you're calling, you only have one way to win, and that's by having the better hands. You need a better hand to call than to raise or to bet. But the other thing is, you know, what's really dangerous about that concept of if you're betting and raising, you give yourself two ways to win, is this is a beginner night. Most of the people watching this show will be playing in very low limit cash games if they're playing in cash games, and even in the very low limit sit and goes. And you know what? People won't fold. You know, by betting and raising, you're not giving yourself two ways to win in those games. You've only got one way to win, and that's by showing the best cards down at the showdown. So really, you should be betting and raising then when you've got the best hand. And I always say there are three main reasons to raise. Number one is to get more money in the pot. Number two is to eliminate or isolate. And number three is to get information from other players. In other words, ask them a question and see what kind of answer they give you.
You could ask them in the chat box.
You could ask them in the chat box.
Probably not going to get an honest answer there, are you?
No, that's the problem with the chat box.
Now, Loomis has actually texted. Hello, Loomis. He says, we were talking about a theme earlier on.
Yep.
And he's come in saying, I'd be Sean Penn out of I Am Sam. Enough said.
Because he is Sam.
Yes, Sam Loomis.
I haven't seen I Am Sam.
I haven't seen it, actually.
So that's kind of gone above our heads, Loomis, I'm afraid. You're cursing the screen there, saying those silly, illiterate people are rubbish. Perhaps someone could text in, or even Loomis could text in, just telling us a little bit about I Am Sam and why you'd be the eponymous Sam.
Well, the question was, who would be
your persona at a poker table?
Persona at a poker table.
If you could create any image amongst in the mind of your opponent, who would you be? Would you be someone wily and cunning?
Who would you be, Caspar?
Who's wily and cunning in cinema?
Wily and cunning.
Yeah. Would you be a bit kooky, like what's his name, Willy Wonka? A bit bizarre.
He's a bit mad.
Yeah, you could be a bit mad, couldn't you? Who else could you be?
You could be Jason Bourne.
Yes,
from
hard.
Family, quite hard.
Not taking
any
nonsense.
rubbish.
Yeah. Good, excellent. Is that another one?
We have email from Sam Hall. Well, we'll do this email. This
is
another one. It's a question.
It's not a
but while we're here, we will do the question. He says, hey, I'm Sam from London. Hey, Sam. If I was bluffing with a pair of threes and I raised it to bluff the win and the other player called and re-raised, what should I do? Called and re-raised to his pair of threes, which he's bluffing with. Probably...
just fold.
Fold?
Yeah, he didn't call, did he? He re-raised. So it's important, first of all, to make a distinction between that. I'm sorry to sound pedantic here, Sam, but he didn't... You say he called and re-raised. No, he just re-raised. There's no call there at all. And he's re-raised your pair of... He's re-raised your bluff. You've got no option at that point. Just fold. I mean, if you think that by going all in, by re-raising him again, will make us put his hand down, then you go for it. But to be honest with you, that happens so rarely in poker, that I am going to put my hand down basically every time.
I have just been reminded that I indeed went all in with a pair of threes. Tried to bluff the pot.
When?
On the poker bowl.
Okay.
But that was fair.
No, there's nothing wrong with doing that.
There's
nothing wrong with him bluffing with a pair of threes. I say that's great. But then someone else, they haven't called and they've re-raised you. Now, they may be bluffing as well, or they may have a hand. But you know what? When someone re-raises you a pair of threes, and I'm guessing, Sam, that you're playing a low-limit game, They're like, even if they've got nothing, they still, you re-raise them and they'll go, oh, I've put most of my money into this pot now, and they'll call you. So people say, when's a good time to bluff? Very, very simple. When the other player will fold.
And how do you know that, though, Caspar? This is the million-dollar question.
You never know that, but here's what you do. You put certain amounts of pieces of information together. So this isn't going to be a complete list off the top of my head, but you say, what kind of player is this? Now, that's not just, does he play a lot of hands pre-flop? You say to yourself, is this the kind of player who will want to call for all his chips, particularly if it's a tournament? Is he that kind of player? Or when people put him to that kind of decision, does he fold? Because there are some players that don't want to call for all their chips in a tournament unless they've got the absolute nuts. You say, is he the kind of player to make a bluff? If he's the kind of player to make a bluff, then that might be a time then we'd come over the top of him, because it's less likely he's got the cards in the first place. We say, what were his betting actions before the flop, if we were on the flop or the turn now? And we say, is that betting action conducive with the kind of flop that came down? So, for example, if he called in late position and the flops come down ace, king, king, and he makes a bet, well, he could have a king, but certainly if it came down, let's say ace, ace, king, or ace, ace, queen, if he just called in late position, is it likely that he's got an ace or a good ace? Do you think that your re-raise may even get him to put something like ace 4 down or ace 5 down? Certainly if he's just got the king or the queen, do you think your raise could get him to put something down? So you put together those pieces of information for starters.
Cool. Well, let's head straight back to our game. And while we do, it is a very good point, because is bluffing as big as part of poker as people make it out to be? Is it something you need to be able to do, or can you just play your cards?
Well, I'm sorry to keep prefacing my answers with this. This is a beginner's night, amateur night. So most people here will be playing in games where most of the time players will not put their cards down. Now, something very important to say about this, folks, a lot of people find that frustrating because they think that, people won't put their cards down. I can't make moves like I've seen Phil Ivey do on the telly. Phil Ivey would love it if people called him when he had a pair of aces. He'd absolutely love it. The fact of the matter is, Phil Ivey doesn't get many calls with a pair of aces, which is why he has to mix his game up a bit and start playing some silly hands in order to loosen up the players around him and get him to call him when he's got aces. So what you want to be doing in most of the games, only low-limit cash games that you're playing, is only putting your money in when you think you've got the best hand or you're getting the odds to make the best draw. Say that again. Only put your money in when you've got the best hand or you think you've got the correct pot odds to make the best draw.
Best draw.
Very good. You almost repeated it word for word a split second after me. With a bit of practice, we'll be perfect at that. And I think we'll impress the judges no end.
Okay, well, back to our sit and go. Let's have it. We'll use this, and this is a higher sit and go at a $50 table. We should have some better players here than say on a $2 table. But we will watch. We'll watch when people are making sneaky moves. We'll see at what point guys and gals are. Oh, look at this, Ace King. It's Ace King. This could get interesting. Okay, well, let's have a look what they do here with these big hands. A raise for Elpig.
I'm sure Big Ad will put a re-raise in now.
Oh. Oh, that was odd.
Couldn't have been more wrong. That's twice I've massively called players wrong tonight.
That seems odd, because Ace King is second. Well, is one of the biggest hands.
Were you going to say the second best hand you can have?
Yeah, that's wrong, because that would be kings. And even queens, I suppose, because it's a made hand rather than.
Well, then you start getting into it. I mean, basically, you can pretty much say that ace is the best hand and kings are the second best hand. As soon as you go beyond that, it becomes so contextual that a hard and fast ranking system becomes nonsense. And again, I've made this point. A lot of people say, oh, you have to give people starting the game some simple rules to cling on to. I say, if you do that, all that's got to happen is they've got to unlearn them, because they get into bad habits, because they go, oh, queens are the third best hand. Oh no, you shouldn't raise with ace kings. You've got nothing before the flop and things like that. All of which is, fallacious.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Yeah, it's not a rude word. Don't worry.
Okay, well, very odd that Big Ad decided that wasn't the moment to try and win some chips. Maybe he knows something we don't. Didn't like his ace king, big slick. So with 3 players have been knocked out, so that leaves 5. Remember, only 3 places get paid here. I'm going to try and concentrate on the hands and see what guys and gals are doing as they do it. Top pair here for Big Shan, but also top pair for El Pig. Now this is an extremely good example of our kickers, as El Pig is in here with a 10-4 now. Do remember he is on the big blind, so he got to play the hand for free anyway. Well, not for free, but you know what I mean. He's got a bad kicker, but he did have a top pair. That ace will save him some money, I think. So obviously Big Shane had the 10 also, but with a big kicker, the king. So I think El Pig will sit back now, will he not?
I will be General Buck Turgidson, played by George C. Scott in Stanley Kubrick. Because he's absolutely bats, and this
not
just completely insane military leader. No, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
So who are you?
I'm George C. Scott,
okay.
who's always slapping his belly.
What type of character is he?
He's very gung-ho. He wants to go to nuclear on on a nuclear war with Russia. Always urging the president to
tell me
press
his
the
name
button.
again. I'm going to write it down. Sorry.
George C. Scott playing General Buck Turgidson. And I'd sit down at a poker table with my big fat cigar, and they'd have to ask me in the poker room to put it out because it's a no smoking area.
Buck Turgidson.
Turgidson.
Yeah. Okay, do remember this is our theme for this evening. We want to know what character you would take on, what persona you would like to sit at a poker table with if you could take it out of the movies.
So Lumas has raised it up there in early position, bluffing away with his 7-3, and he's chosen the wrong day to give up smoking because El Pig has raised it all in, and poor old Lumas really can only fold here if he's half the man I think he is, and he is. And there it goes. And I've called one right, and I may quit now while I'm ahead, and by that I mean actually resign, or at least resign for the evening. Ace Jack, rather, in first position. Is it a raise or is it a fold from Big Shan? Big Shan's made some funny plays tonight. I don't mean bad plays, I just mean quite difficult to read. He's played different ways in different situations, but he certainly likes a bit of a pre-flop play, so it was unlikely that he was going to put that down. And he takes the blinds down. King 10 suited for El Pig in a nice steal position. I can see him taking this down. I can't. I'm going to give up now, I think.
That's fair enough. Well, Lewis
Thanks.
has decided to go all in here with a 6-7 connected. Will Big Shane? No, he takes it down. Bear in mind you're taking 240 chips every time you steal those blinds, although Loomis obviously was already on the small blind. Pair of fours there for Big Shan against a pair of aces for making jam.
Yeah, I can see you making jam double through here. And this is a check situation for me, actually. This is a nice situation with a pair of aces. Try and get your opponent to bet into you before the flop. If you bet now and your opponent misses the flop, it's very unlikely he's going to bet into you. Your opponent only called before the flop. He's only going to call with a weak hand. You're now relying on that 2-to-1 chance of him hitting the flop. Otherwise, he's just going to check and fold to the pre-flop raiser. So, bit of a shame for me for making jam. But again, this is the thing. Not a wrong play. Oh, well, look, there we go. I'm completely... I couldn't be more wrong. No, I'm just making completely erroneous calls.
Well, making jam is going to double up.
Yeah, and good for him. That's great. I'm very happy.
So if I was a guy, I would be the guy that Jason Statham plays, by the way.
And I'm sorry not to acknowledge that just for now, but just to say that the thing about making jam's play there is, you know, I said it, wasn't my optimum play, but he's sitting there playing with Big Shan, and he's saying this guy's making some erratic bets. He's playing the aggressive game, and I think even if I raise pre-flop here, in fact, he may even see that as a sign of weakness. He may see that as the kind of thing that someone definitely wouldn't do with aces. So there you are. What I was going to say, actually, at that point when Big Shan proved me wrong was there are no right or wrong answers here. You know, all we can do is weigh up the different factors and make what we think is the most positive expectation play.
Okay, well, we've seen Loomis push in a couple of times. Big Shane rolling up here with the ace 10. At this stage of a tournament, do you think... Well, this table seems to be very aggressive to me.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of all-ins. It's not necessarily a bad thing, though, is it? I mean, we have said before here on Poker Night Live that you don't need to be risking your chips when there's still a lot of play in the blinds.
Yeah, there is still a lot of play in the blinds, that's very true, but this for me is a typical $50 table. This is what I would expect and indeed want from a $50 table.
Okay.
You know, these players are no mugs. They know that aggression really takes it. And when we say aggression, folks, just for all you players starting off, bit of lingo there, we don't mean that they're beating each other up, literally, although probably yes to the metaphorically. They are raising it up a lot, making each other make big decisions. Look at that, Lumas making Big Shan make a decision for 1,000 of his hard-earned chips, and Big Shan says no, and Lumas takes it down with the ace-queen. Got an email from David that says, can't believe we haven't seen I Am Sam.
Yeah, I know, I saw that one.
It's a brilliant film, he says.
But he does say it's a very good film, and he does want some advice about the multiplayer tournaments. And we probably will be heading over there soon.
That's
now I'm
someone
looking, I'm looking at somebody else. That's
But we
Sam
still
Hall.
will
Hello,
be
Sam.
heading over to the multiplayer, won't we?
We will be. So Sam, we'll tackle your email when we do go over to the multi-table tournament.
He says, I Am Sam is a film about a special person who tries to get custody of his daughter.
He says he's in a $30 single, all or nothing shot. Wish me luck. Well, David, good luck from us. Hope you get in the money. Hope you're watching, taking some tips off our big $50 table.
Yeah. Pair of fives for Big Shan in first position. I would say that he'd play this, but he obviously wouldn't if I said that, so I didn't, and he did. L big with a pair of tens. A good raising opportunity here. May favour the smooth call to try and get a little bit of deception, but I would say that this isn't the place in the tournament to do that. This is where aggression will pay. You've got a nice hand. Only had two opponents actually, because Big Ad was all in for the 20. And Lumas and Big Shan fold. Big Ad needed a queen, take that down, and L Pig. Now sitting pretty as our chip leader.
Now we're looking at the bubble situation.
Yes, we are.
We're going to play tens to chains, and aggression really does pull through here, I've noticed. So many people sit back. It's a really good time to take the opportunity to try and steal some chips back.
Yeah, absolutely. Although the more people that do that, when that becomes a real dominant ideology, it will ironically become much less effective. 5, 6, 7, 8 for making jam, but of course he's only going to make that 1 in every 2 times. So if he's going to play this, he's got to play this what we call fast. In other words, he's got to basically go all in, and he needs Big Shan to check here to make that a profitable bet. See, now Big Shan's done that, making jam bets, he's going to get a call from Big Shan. So making jam's got to accept that if he bets now, he's only going to stay in this tournament 1 out of every 3 times.
Okay.
Okay, and that's why he's folded. That's the principle behind folding there. Was he getting the correct pot odds to call? Yes, but he said to himself, Big Shan's made a bet that I know he's going to call even though I push in, and he would have been a big favourite actually, but Big Shan had a silly unconnected big card that would have. Sorry, Big Shan was a favourite to take it because he had this. What did he have? Jack 3 or something, or Queen 3 or something?
Oh yes.
An unconnected face card. Making jam, although he didn't know so, his gut said he was only going to win it 1 time in every 3, and he said that's not good enough for me.
Well, a couple of biggish hands here. I mean, at this stage of a tournament, do higher cards come into play a lot more? Because at the beginning of a tournament, things like King Queen, King 10, Ace 4, you're not going to want to be playing with to any extent. But when there's only 4 people left, is this where it becomes something you can do?
You've absolutely got to loosen up, Michelle, and you've absolutely got to start playing those big cards. They're the cards that become really playable. And the reason you've got to do that is very simple, because the blinds are big and they come around every 4 hands. In fact, you are blinding now 50% of hands. So you have got to steal the blinds with greater frequency. And the argument there is it turns it into more of a crapshoot. It becomes much more of a luck game at this stage when the blinds are that big and that high proportion of your stack. Let's put it this way. When the blinds are big, you have very few blinds in your stack. Therefore, you have very few decisions that you can make in your stack. And because poker is a game where the ability to make decisions is what makes it not a luck game in the long term, the fewer decisions you have the ability to make, because your stack is small in relation to the blinds, the more luck is a factor. So it's as simple as that.
It's 10 for Big Shan, who is our chip leader at the moment. Making Jam has some work to do. He really needs to be pushing all in to try and double up, because those blinds are just going to be eating him up. And I've seen people really hanging on in there with the blinds and not pushing all in. And I'm assuming that's in hope to take a third place position and hope that two others might push themselves out or push one out so that you can take third position.
Yeah, and that's how some people play the bubble. And the interesting thing is that, as I was saying before, the more players start to play really aggressively and start to raise up in this bubble situation because they think that players won't call them because they're trying to eke into the money, the more players start raising, the more it's going to be correct to sit back and wait for them to bust each other out.
It's a really good point to touch on, actually, for these multi-table tournaments, because it's a pinnacle part of the game. If you've made it down to the last floor, it's horrible to go out fourth, as you're the last person still in without winning anything. And sometimes that does come into your head. You think, right, okay, I'm the lowest chip stack. There's 4 of us left. I really want to get into the money here. Now, I know I should be pushing all in and trying to double up, because the blinds are going to be eating me up soon. But if I can just hang through the blinds, I can hope that 2 of the other players will have a battle on their hands and somebody will go out. But obviously what you're saying is
I'm not saying anything.
Chipped,
oh, I'm not saying
you're
anything.
not saying anything.
No, I'm not saying anything.
If you're low chipped, all I'm saying is for our new viewers, the reason that you should be pushing all in when you're low chipped in this stage of the tournament is because the blinds are going to eat you up and you won't have the decision once you're on the blind. If you get dealt bad cards, that's tough, whereas you do have the decision before that, when you get a half-decent hand to push in.
Yeah, I mean, even if a lot of players are playing very aggressively, if the blinds are like a third of your stack, you've got to start raising frequently. You've got to raise it up. And steal. You've got to steal those blinds.
Yep.
And it's so frustrating because you can't even do like other plays that you might have in your playbook. You can't even sort of call on the button in late position and then bet out on the flop, because by the time you've called on the button in late position, you've probably put about half your stack in. Do you know what I mean? And so no one's going to fold for another single bet. You're right.
Yes. Yep. I like it when there's only 3 left. It's a very exciting stage of the tournament. Don't make me laugh again. I'll poke you with my pen.
How have I made you laugh?
You've got a comical face, Caspar.
Do you know what it is? You giggle live on air and then blame it on me and the viewers. I think the truth needs to be told. You're just not professional.
All right. Because you'd never laugh on air, would you, when you're supposed to be being professional?
Only in response to your giggles. I mean, obviously that's going to make me laugh.
Right.
Look at this. It's almost all over. Whilst you're talking about laughter, that's a huge hand. Look at that. 2 players all in. Big Shan, split pot between the aces. L Pig takes all that he was entitled to. Could have been all over there, wasn't, which is good because it would have been so anticlimactic. So Big Shan on the button with 10-7. He's got a king-jack behind him and a queen-5. Doesn't know that, of course. Just got to make a decision as to what he would do with that 10-7. And what he does know is that L Pig would like to raise in that situation because the blinds are going to eat him up, and therefore he can rely on L Pig raising and there being a chance, not a certainty, a chance that Loomis will call him. And that's the thought process there that goes behind his fold. Loomis raising it up with King 2. Big Shan has the better hand, but of course he doesn't know it. It's a classic example of you need a better hand to call than you do to raise. It's not that good an example, obviously, because he has called.
King 2, King 5, couple of rag kings here, but 2 takes it. Loomis, who's now gone into chip lead. As you can see at this stage, the game truly is anybody's. But there is skill involved at this stage as well, isn't it? You do have to be able to pick your moment.
Skin?
Skill.
Skill. Hooks there, you like that, don't you, hooks?
I do like the hooks, actually. The jacks, but I prefer the aces. 2-10, Queen 8-9-6, nothing much here. Oh, a load of rubbish again here. Well, at least they're all in the money. You do relax a bit when you know you're in the last three, don't you, in these tournaments?
Well, you shouldn't.
You do, though, naturally. You think,
Well,
oh, thank God, at least I'm getting my money back.
You might do, but you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, inculcate the best play. People will be really hard on me now. They'll be shouting at the telly and saying, why is he always picking on Michelle? I'm not always picking on you, am I? And I am goaded.
You're goaded?
Yeah.
Oh, Lewis is steaming ahead here.
He absolutely is. He's got 9-6. He raises it up. Big Shan got a call by that time with his 10-6. And Loomis dead to a 9, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately if you're Loomis. If you're Loomis, not if you're Big Shan. Aces and 10s with a king. Take it down for Big Shan. And that's just an example of how quickly it can all change. Blind's massive now. Look at that, 640, 1200.
Is this as high as they get, or do they carry on?
I think they stay at this. Big Shan, got a third of his stack in there. Tries to raise it up. L-Pig got a call with an ace. Suited ace at that.
So a queen or a 3 will put L-Pig out.
Yeah, doesn't get it.
Still in the game.
Yeah, and there we are. Big L-Pig now.
So even Lewis isn't safe here now because he's
none
only
of them
got
are. No.
I
mean, Malcolm Harwood basically does call this stage of these tournaments with those blinds a bottle spin or a crapshoot or whatever you want to put it. I mean, it's basically there's very little skill left in this game. My argument would be that that's fine, but the skill has been exerted in the run up to this point. But if Loomis or L-Pig or Big Shan were to text us in after this going, what did I do wrong? The answer is nothing. There's nothing that you can read into your play from this point. It's just going to be, I mean, you could say it's the most aggressive person. That's fine, but, you can't be aggressive if you're just getting dealt 8-5, 8-3 all the time, and that sometimes can happen. You're not doing anything wrong. It's not even that, you're on a particularly bad run. It's just chaos. It's just random number theory. It's not random number theory. I made that phrase up. I don't know what that actually means, but I think the general...
I think you're allowed to make stuff up.
Implication was
I think
clear.
you've reached that.
Thank God, because you do all the time.
Well, look, we've got a winner. Loomis has taken it. Well done, Loomis.
Not surprising. Loomis, good player. Bad luck, Big Shan. Big Shan, interesting, actually. Made some really good plays. Also made some plays which I would think are a bit weird, but I hope he doesn't take that the wrong way. There's no shame in that at all.
Well,
I'm no arbiter of the truth.
Here's our beautiful chip movement chart. Oh, and there it's gone.
Wasn't so much a chip movement chart as a chart, was it?
It's a blank chart.
As it turned out.
Fill in the blanks yourself. You watched the game.
That's
as
right.
Did we.
On the TiVo, get your felts out. Just start to scribble on the screen.
I do have a couple of emails for you, Caspar.
Oh, good.
I did say to everybody at the beginning of the night, if you have any questions throughout the night to ask our expert, Caspar, then you can do. 62211 is the text number, and poker@pokernightlive.co.uk is the email. This is one from Mike, the Moo Kid Kelly. Good evening to you, Mike. I'm going to read your email just as you've sent it.
Can you read it word for word?
I'm going to read it word for word.
Yeah, cool.
He says, Caspar mate, I was wondering if, like the implied odds of a flush draw, post-flop, are like good, well good, or proper not good. I was like playing like yesterday and like couldn't win. I don't really understand what a flush is, so could you, explain that a bit too? Thanks a lot, mate. Oh, by the way, the jumper's great. Your nan did a sick job. Don't think you should really be taking the mick out of Caspar's nan at this point in the show, but...
Because she's dead. So, now you feel bad, don't you? Do you know, I just thought it'd be a bit more cuddly. We were always wearing the jackets, aren't we, and being the American sports presenters. I thought, get a cardi on, Cass. Cup of cocoa.
It's a beautiful cardigan. Get some slippers.
Be asleep by one.
And a pipe.
I will, with any luck. Mike the Moo Kid. If the implied odds of a flush draw post-flop are like good, well good, or proper good. Well, of course, the implied odds of a flush draw reduce as the hand goes on. The further you are progressed into a hand, the less likely it is that that pot is going to get much bigger by the river.
Can I interrupt, Simon?
Yeah, of course.
He does actually say that he doesn't understand what a flush is, so you probably should start with that.
So why is he asking about a concept like implied odds if he doesn't know what a flush is?
Because I don't really understand what a flush is, so could you explain that a bit too?
I've got to be honest with you, I don't think this is a particularly serious email, do you? I think Mike the Moo Kid's had a couple.
Having a bit of a chuckle with this.
There's nothing wrong with that, Mike. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a waste of my time. What's a flush?
For the other viewers,
Okay.
you can answer the question.
A flush is 5 cards all of the same suit. Now, do take note. 5 cards all of the same suit. All right, so we don't get anything in this game for 3 hearts and a pair of 6s. Or I've got 4, 5, 6 and a pair of 8s. All right, nothing for that. Got to be 5 cards all of the same suit. And a flush beats a straight. And a straight is 5 cards in running order. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. But you can't go Queen, King, Ace, 2, 3. Aces play high or low, but they can't play both. As for the part of your question that talks about implied odds, I would say if you're just learning what a flush is, probably got a way to go before I can make that understandable. Don't have 2 hours to sit here discussing all the things that lead up to implied odds. But keep watching the show, mate. And I think you'll do really well,
See what you did there, that was really funny, Okay, come hither.
Are you actually asking the vision mixer to cut to your close-up? Because I may resign, seriously.
Keep it on 2. Keep it on 2,
really?
please.
Is that what you
I've got
want?
a spot.
Okay.
Keep it on 2. Okay. We have a theme here, and we did say for the theme tonight we want to know what persona you would take on from the movies. Han has emailed us in saying, "Hey guys, great show. You must get sick of hearing that, but it's true."
I'll be honest with you, it is true, and we don't get sick of it.
We don't get sick of it at all. Keep it coming.
We are fat.
He says, I was going to say my movie persona would be Maria, the beautiful assassin from Killing Time, but that would be a lie.
Private joke there between me and Han.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I didn't really get it.
No.
I would have to say the dude from The Big Lebowski, unfathomable, unreadable, totally laid back, and with God on his side. What more could you ask for?
What about Johnny Depp in Leaving Las Vegas, playing Hunter Thompson? Totally mad.
I like Johnny Depp.
Totally unreadable.
He also does another one he'd be quite good at where he gets fat, but I can't remember it. But Jason Statham in...
It's like sitting with Jonathan Ross or Barry
Jason
Norman
Statham would be a good one.
Halliwell.
He's hard and he's unreadable.
He is, yes, that's true. He has got a good poker face.
Yeah, very good poker face.
Yeah, okay.
I need to think of some women ones for me.
What about Jake Gyllenhaal? He's got a good poker face.
Yeah, he's got a good
Who
poker
else is very
face.
good at deadpan?
Dr. Tom, perfect.
Not so much for character in a film, though, is he?
Yeah, but he's a bit of an actor.
He could be. He is Gene Wilder.
He is Gene Wilder.
And Nicholas Ritchell. And Mick Hucknall. Who isn't he?
We didn't say that he was Mick Hucknall. That was one of the viewers.
I did just
but
now.
we have got some more themes here. We'll be doing them when we return from the break. If you have somebody you would like to be a persona of when you're playing poker, do let us know, 62211, and the email poker@pokernightlive.co.uk.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray, that could work.
In Broken Flowers or Lost in Translation.
Okay, well, you have a think on it over the break. We'll have a think on it too, and we'll see you in a few minutes when we return for some more poker, action and fun. Good evening, welcome back to Poker Night Live with myself, Michelle, the night nurse, and Caspar, Furryhead.
Just made them up?
I just made it up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I won't do it again.
People, it's not Shabba.
Oh, sorry, Cabba.
It's not Cabba. You've made both of them up.
You
They're
asked
all
me
yours
for
in your
Cabba.
head.
We'll do that one night. We'll get you a better AKA than what you've got.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Can we not do it tonight, though, folks?
We're not doing it tonight. We're doing the theme tonight. We're asking you what persona you would like to take upon yourself while you're playing the game.
I've got
You got some?
Yeah. Edward Scissorhands.
He's quite emotional in his eyes, though. His eyes are readable. You
No,
can't
they're
have
just
him.
sad. They're just sad. He's
They're
just
quite
always
readable,
sad.
though.
The trouble is he couldn't pick up the cards, so he just cut them to shreds.
Yeah.
He could just lift them up like that and just get a little glance.
You could use the end of it, yeah.
Jules Winfield, Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction.
Yes, we said that one. Brilliant.
He'd be
You're just too
terrifying,
scared of
wouldn't
him.
And Red, Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, he's very quiet.
Just not going to get a read from him. He's just so cool.
And even more, to be honest, Morgan Freeman altogether, because even in the one he did with Brad Pitt, 7, he's quite deadpan and good in that as well.
That's because the executives told him to just do exactly the same as he did in Shawshank Redemption,
yes.
and they'd pay him £8 million.
Who would you like to be? We've had some good ones. I was saying Jason Statham earlier. He's got a very good deadpan face.
Statham.
Your one would be George C. Scott as General Buck to Jetson. Is that correct?
Turgidson.
Turgidson. Who would you like to be? We have had a couple. Actually, I've had another one here.
Yes.
From Sam.
Yes.
And he says, In the film I Am Sam, because somebody said they would be, Luma said he'd be Sam.
Oh, okay.
He is Sam,
Yeah.
quite funny. He says, in the film I Am Sam, Sean Penn plays an autistic man. Quite a funny film at moments, but the saddest film I've ever seen. I'd play him as no one would take me seriously.
Excellent, yes.
Okay,
well,
that's
you could be Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man, in fact, couldn't you? And then not only could you be
It's a very good one because he reads the cards.
a blabbering gibbet, but you could also, be a...
It wouldn't help for poker, but it would help for blackjack.
It would help for a 7-card stud.
It would.
Cards and 7-card stud.
Rob here says, hi Michelle and Cass, hope you're both well. Well, we're okay, Rob, thank you for
Been
asking. Been better.
No, just being honest.
Okay. Same here. He says, my character would be HAL 2000 from 2001, A Space Odyssey.
That's
because
good.
one,
Yes.
and I like the way he's telling us why here, this is very
Yes,
good. He says,
good.
for one, my opponents couldn't read my poker face because I haven't got one.
Good.
Very good. Two, I could work out pot odds in mere nanoseconds.
Seconds would do, but
Yep.
good.
And three, I'm completely bonkers.
Yeah, absolutely excellent.
He says, cheers. P.S. Perhaps Michelle could let us know how she feels she's improving as a player, as I am too a relative novice. And this goes for a lot of our guys that have been watching since the summer, because that's when I started. So a lot of people that started watching the show then should have progressed as far as I have. Now, I do have the added benefit of sitting next to you guys all night, and I have the best
Much good it does
tutors.
to you.
And it does do me good. I've moved slowly. I haven't caned the game. I haven't played it day in, day out, excuse me.
Caned the game.
Caned the game. Which I find has helped me. It hasn't burned me out. I play it as and when. I don't tend to play it when I come in.
Sorry.
You're right there,
No, I don't know.
Caspar.
There's something
Some
funny
water.
about that. I'm not caning the game. Good. It hasn't burned me out. Pacing yourself.
Pacing myself.
5-year plan.
And I'm moving up slowly. I started off at 1 2 cent. I moved up quickly to 5 10 cent, and I stayed there for quite a while until I felt confident enough to move up to 10 25 cent. And when I did, I actually felt it was a better game for me because I'm not a flamboyant player, I don't think, as I've had the likes
Or
of
person.
Dr. Tom
No.
or person. Are you taking the mick again?
No, I'm just making a factual observation.
So I do tend to play the game and the players more. So for me, I actually found it quite easier as I moved up the levels, and I even did move up again, and I found playing in the higher levels easier. I found people were doing more what I expected them to do. Whereas there was obviously in the lower players, a lot of people stay in hands they shouldn't be, which is good if you know how to play those people. But I don't have the bankroll to be in the really high level games, and that makes a big difference as well, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
and then you shouldn't. You should play in whatever games you feel
I feel
comfortable that you can
comfortable.
beat, or that you're having fun in. If you're not playing to make money, and that you could have the bankroll that it fits with your domestic budget.
I mean, I've been playing since July, and I play on the 10 25 cent tables, occasionally the 25 50 cent, but generally the 10 25 cent, and I tend to swap between $10 and $20 tourneys.
Do you want to know something interesting about 10 25 cent tables?
Yep.
You should be far less inclined, even less than you should be, which is very little, to call from a small blind. Because you're getting less good odds because it's less than half the big blind.
Yeah.
And
yes,
that
it
little
is.
bit actually makes an enormous difference.
And you're also in first position, which is a nightmare.
Well, yes, I mean, all those other rules apply to the small blind, but you're getting even less.
Because it's 10 25 rather than half.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very good
Even
point.
less. Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Say something interesting about HAL as well, HAL 2000. Arthur C. Clarke denies that this is how he got the name, but HAL is one letter before the alphabet, before IBM.
Oh, that's
He
good.
says that wasn't why he called it HAL, though. Should we do something else? Because
Well, I do want
Just
to.
sitting here
Sam Hall
feels
actually.
like dead air.
Sam Hall actually texted us earlier.
All right.
He says, I've been playing online sit and goes for quite some time now. I have been thinking about going into multiplayer tournaments. Any advice you could give me would be great. So the transition of a sit and go through to a multi-table tourney, is it best to look at this when we go to our multi-table a bit later on?
Well, we'll give it a little bash now, Sam. First of all, good question, so thanks very much. Second of all, I know Dr. Tom would say that there's no difference at all. In fact, there's no difference between a multi-table or a sit and go or indeed a cash game. Well, the differences are much less than people think, that your betting decisions should be made according to exactly the same criteria. It's just that those situations, the situations that you'll face, will occur much less often in a cash game. People will be short-stacked like that much less often in a cash game, and that's why your play will differ. I would say a couple of things. I would say, number one, you will win a multi-table tournament much less often. That might sound obvious, but it's a fact. And therefore not to be disheartened when you go on those stretches of not winning. Second thing is, and it's also obvious, is you've got to go for a lot longer in a multi-table tournament. And sometimes players who are really good in sit and goes, because you're changing speeds so quickly, are much less good at the sort of 4 or 5 hours when you've got to play solid poker, even though sometimes you're going to get knocked out in those middle stages of multi-table tourney. What's important, I think, is not to deviate from what you know deep down to be good play. Okay, so it's a question of really the reason why sit and goes are very, very good, and particularly for beginning poker players, is that they're going to get because the short runs, the long run rather, is so much shorter. You hit the long run so much quicker than in a multi-table tourney. Mark and I were talking, and Tom backs us up, and I think James agrees, that the long run in a multi-table tourney of sort of 300-400 players is about 3 years. Well, you know, I wouldn't like to hazard a guess. I would say the long run in a sit-and-go tournament is probably no more than 1,000 sit-and-goes, which, you know, if you play a couple a day, you can hit in just over a year. So, and you know, you probably play more than a couple of days, probably playing 3 or 4. So sit and goes, you can hit that long run much quicker. Whereas the multi-table tournaments, you've got to rely on your poker discipline and patience, and they're 2 skills of the professional poker player. And not everyone has them in abundance when they first start off, because our brains are attuned to thinking much shorter term. So hopefully you have it, and if so, go for it. What I think a lot of people do in multi-table tourneys is they don't really know how they're doing for a very long time. So they either sit there and write into us saying how badly they're doing, or they brag to their friends and go, I've won £6,000 in the last 6 weeks. And in actual fact, neither result means anything at all. It's just a reflection on what sort of cards they've had at that particular point.
Okay, thank you, Caspar.
Pleasure.
Just before we go back, we have actually got a cash game we're heading over to, but Big Ad has just texted us in. He was in that $50 tournament we just watched.
Yeah.
And he says, hi guys, I was in the $50 table, but my PC crashed, and that's how I went out. It's lucky it's not lying in the back garden right now.
That's really horrible. Yeah, bad luck, Big Ad, but it was a good tournament. We still came third, so...
yeah, not bad. Yeah. Well, we're going to head over to a cash game now. We've watched our tournament, so let's see how play differs when we go over to a cash game. I do believe it's $1, 50 cent $1. It's a bit higher than what I'm used to.
Frankie Doodle.
Luminous is also playing in this as well. We've got Clay, the Firebird, Frankie Doodle. We've got Ken Snaffit there, he's playing. We've got Craven, Jack Alley, and Roaming Kong. Top left there. So a cash game, as you can see, the blinds are the same. They will make clockwise around the table, make their way clockwise around the table, but they won't go up in a cash game. It will always stay the same. So what is the difference between a tournament and a cash game then?
Well, cash game, you can come in and you can go as freely, as often as you want. You don't have to play for a certain period of time like you do in a tournament. You don't have to all start together like you do in a tournament. And of course, those numbers that we see underneath those people's names, they are real dollar amounts.
Wow, so they're actually playing with that money.
They are actually, as you say, playing with that money. So Firebird has just won $11 into his poker account. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Only time will tell. Ace-Jack for Firebird. Ace-3, raising it up from the cut-off. That place is called the cut-off. One before the dealer button is the cut-off. I'll say it again, cut-off. And Ace-Jack has a better hand, but it's a small blind. What are you going to do from the small blind? You're going to re-raise it to try and isolate it? You're going to smooth call? Well, Ace-Jack hates three-handed play, and Firebird did indeed raise it, and he's assuming the initiative. And he's right on this occasion because Clay has the ace-3. Now, could Clay have ace-queen? He could do. But what Firebird's saying is because that raise comes from late in the table, the cut-off, that he has a good case to raise it up, which indeed he does.
You know who we haven't thought of as a good... James Bond. He'd be good in the casino, wouldn't he?
Yes.
Persona to have. He'd never let anyone be able to read him.
Suppose not.
Right.
I think Sean Connery would be better than Roger Moore.
Age-old argument, isn't it?
No, I mean at poker.
Why?
Slightly different twist on the old argument. Just think he'd be, you know, more intimidating. Would Roger Moore intimidate you with those big brown shades?
He's cute for an old man.
Who?
Good looking for an older man, Roger Moore, and Sean Connery, to be fair. Look, there's the leaderboard. We can see that Loomis at the moment has the most chips and Frankie Doodle has the least chips. But you do have to remember, these guys can sit down with any amount they choose with. So for all we know, Frankie Doodle sat down with $50, which I believe is the minimum.
The minimum here, well, mine's a blank. It really is.
Sorry, it'd be $100, won't it?
$100 is the maximum, isn't it? Isn't it 100 times the big blind? Why has my mind gone a blank on this?
Yes, $10 is the minimum
Yeah.
and $100 is the maximum. Because it's 10 times the big blind is the minimum and 100 times the big blind is the maximum.
That is right,
but
isn't it? Are we going mad?
No, that is right.
Okay, thank you.
But between that, you can sit down with anything you please. When you take your seat at a table, you will be asked, won't you, how much you want to sit down with within them limits. Do you have a recommendation here on what you should be sitting down with?
Oh, you know what? Because I'm like exactly the same as I was last time when I was tonight. I want to give like simple answers, but Tom and I talked about this for 3 hours one night.
Do you know what, Caspar? We
Yes.
don't mind if you want to give more complicated answers.
Do you want a more complicated answer?
No, we don't mind. We're not talking about half an hour on it here, but you can go more in depth than.
How long have I got?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
A minute.
I did say that Tom and I talked about it for hours.
A minute.
A minute.
What do you think, Caspar? Is this important to somebody that's had
It is,
0
it's very
to 6
important.
months experience?
Yeah, it is very important. Yeah, how much you sit down with in a no-limit cash game is very important.
Okay, you've got an hour then.
Okay, well, if you are... You see, the point is, if you've got a big stack, you give someone the ability to win a big stack for the cost of $1. Okay, for $1, they stand a chance of winning your entire stack.
Yeah.
Right? They're not necessarily going to. It's obviously up to you whether you put it in. So if you've got a big stack, that gives them big implied odds. Okay? It also gives you big implied odds.
So by implied odds, we're talking about the amount of money we can take off them?
That's right, yeah. The amount of money it's possible to win off them by the river. Okay? Now, implied odds favour good players. Okay? So technically, if you were a less good player, you wouldn't want to give people good implied odds, even though it was giving you good implied odds, right? Because implied odds will be made by good players. The factors that go into whether someone is going to pay your hand off big time at the river is, number one, how hidden is your hand, all right? In other words, if there's a straight out there and it's completely invisible and you've got the nut straight and no one can see it, it's a very good chance that someone will pay you off, right? And number two, how good a player are they? In other words, if they're really bad, they'll pay you off with your big hand because they just won't read you for it, right? So if you're a less good player, you're going to get paid off less by the river by better players. So in that case, it would be better to buy in for a small amount. I have to stop that there because Jack Alley has got 3 kings and obviously thinks he's got, you know, basically the holy nuts. Of course he hasn't. There's one hand that can beat him, and that's 9-10 Jack Queen King. So this is a massive standoff between these two players now, and Jack Alley's going to do very well not to lose all his money, and I'm afraid he does. Loomis takes it down, and that's the kind of moment that a player like Loomis will sit like a tiger in the long grass waiting for. So, if you're just starting the game, it's actually preferable to buy in for a small amount of money. When else is it preferable to buy in for a small amount of money? When you're not playing a game which wants or desires or will benefit from giving you or your opponents big implied odds. So, you'll also buy in for a small amount of money when you play a tight, aggressive game, because that's not the kind of game that benefits from implied odds, whereas a real loose, wild game does like implied odds. You want to see the flop with 7-10? Cool. Go ahead and do it. But what that means is that every now and again you've got to hit 7-10 on the flop, and you've got to get that to pay big time, right? And that's what implied odds are all about. The amount of money that is implied could go into the pot by the river. All right? So, what do we know? We know if you're a less good player than the rest of the table, you want to buy in for small buy-ins, and buy in many times if you want to. If you're a tight player, you want to buy in for small buy-ins. Okay? If you're a tight player who's just starting the game, definitely just buy in for 10 times the big blind. If you're a good loose player, if you've got good judgment, lots of experience, and you want to play those wild and crazy hands like 7-10 offsuit, then buy in for 100 times the big blind. All right? And if you're somewhere in between, if you're a good tight player, well then folks, you're on your own. 9-10 Jack Queen King.
I do
Loomis
see a lot.
has done it again.
Has he done it again?
It's
Another
men on the
straight.
straight. Look at that.
Look at that.
Look at that.
I have seen a lot of people, I play in $25 max buy-ins,
Stop
and
bragging.
people will come in with, it's not really brag, is
Not
it?
really,
$25 though. But people tend to sit down with things like $4.75 and really odd amounts that I've never really got, and then they'll just go all in at the first decent hand they get.
That's what they got left over from their bus fare, isn't it?
I suppose so, yeah. And then some guy come on the other day saying, please can you give me some money, because this is my last $25.
Ah, well, begging online is a very interesting thing now. It's becoming quite a big problem. Railbirds in poker rooms are well known for sort of leaning over the rail and say, "Oi, mate, lend us a tenner." Railbirds are people who stand at the rail in poker rooms, crow like a bird. Not crow like a bird. What do they do? Squawk like a bird. Crow is a kind of bird. You don't crow like a bird, do you? Maybe you do.
Croak. Crows probably croak a bit.
We're getting into such a weird area now. Anyway,
Yeah, a friend.
Railbirds loan money, and online they've started doing exactly the same, which is just sitting, typing in the chat box, go on, lend us some money, lend us some money.
My younger cousin went up to my granddad and said, "Can you make a noise like a frog?" And he said, "Why?" And he went, "Because Dad says when you croak, I could take you to Disneyland."
I do hope that's a myth and not actual behaviour in the Orpe household.
York massive.
Orpe massive. Bigging it up to those out in Essex.
There's nothing wrong with us.
There's nothing wrong with Essex. I grew up in Essex.
You're from Newcastle.
I'm not. I'm from Essex. I'm from Essex when I'm with you, and I'm from Newcastle when I'm with Lindsay. And both times I'm telling the truth.
So you're from Canada as well?
Look, Sweeps from Barnsley says he'd like to be Vince Vaughn in Swingers. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he is a cool guy.
Yeah. Who would you like to be?
Actually, I want to ask the viewers, when you're emailing in saying who you'd like to be, can you think of one for me? Because I can't think of a good women one. I thought of Julia Roberts.
In Pretty Woman?
No, from Ocean's 12, because
Right.
she's quite upper class and she's very stony-faced.
Okay.
I don't think, but she's also very, funny.
Okay.
So I'm just picking someone because I like them.
Okay.
I can't think of anyone else as a woman.
I think you could be Meryl Streep in Kramer vs. Kramer.
I haven't seen it.
She's just quite uncertain about what she wants in life and a bit mixed up.
What about Courtney Love then in versus Larry Flint versus People?
Ah, yes.
Can you give me a banana?
Meanwhile,
She's
9-10.
messed up,
Jack Queen.
so you wouldn't be able to read her.
Absolutely. 7-9 has made 2 pair. Mr. Ken Snappit pulls it out of the bag. Always at the best hand. Just got a little bit better. Checks it down. Knows that he's only going to get called by a better hand. You have to get up very early in the morning to take money off Kenneth.
Craven there on the small blind and Pakistan in GL on the big blind. Oh, those middle pairs, Caspar.
Yes, pair of sixes. Something I already love for some reason.
I tend to go with the feeling. Sometimes I'm quite happy just to lay the middle to low pairs down.
Yeah, and you're very wise to do so. Pakistan has a pair of kings, top pair. Frankie Doodle has the inside straight draw, and to be the test of his mettle to see whether he plays this or folds. Now, Pakistan has actually checked top pair, presumably with the intention of check raising. Let's see if Frankie Doodle puts a bet in. That's a steal bet from late position there. We'll talk about position in just a minute. Let's just see if Pakistan does check raise. No, just smooth calls. Now that's quite a weird play there from Pakistan. You've really got to raise that up with the top pair, I think, particularly if you get a nice juicy bet from late position. Of course, that late position could have king-queen, but I'd be wanting to check raise that, ask a big question, hopefully win it there and then. And again, just checking it, presumably just checking and calling it again. For me, not a good way of playing top pair, this. Got to play top pair with more aggression. Got to make those hands pay to suck out on you. Now the flush card has come. Can Pakistan call a bet on the river? We'll see. Of course, Frankie Doodle still doesn't have anything.
This seems to be a classic case of calling all the way through to the end because he doesn't seem sure if he does indeed have the best hand.
But there we go. He does win the hand.
Can I ask you about a hand that I really struggle with, and I'm
Yes.
sure many others out there do? Jack 10 and Queen Jack. Those 10-9, around that area. I've always seen it as a hand whereas if limp in, if you don't hit it, get out of there quickly. But I see a hell of a lot of people making big decisions with these hands, and I'm wondering if I'm missing something with it.
Well, the funny thing about Jack 10 is that it's a favourite over pair of 2s, pair of 3s, pair of 4s, pair of 5s, pair of 6s.
Really?
Yeah, sorry, Jack 10 suited
Okay.
is a favourite over those hands. So that's the reason why you'll find some people playing those hands aggressively, particularly in later position when they've got all the benefit of position. They might be re-raising an early position or mid-position raiser because they feel that they can put them down, first of all, and they might even be a favourite if they turn over a pair.
I see a lot of pre-flop raising with Jack 10 as well. I'm thinking,
Yeah, and it's kind of like a hand that some people will use to randomise their pre-flop raises. They'll say, I'll raise with the premium hands, and I'll also use this hand, which is really a suited connector and wants to be played multi-way, as my random raising hand. You shouldn't raise every time with Jack 10. I think if you do that, you're probably playing it incorrectly. But there are certain hands, certain situations in which it dictates it. Here's Jack 10 now, because what I was going to say was actually that the problem that I have answering a question like that is that I'm just so far away now from thinking of a hand in isolation, and I think a lot of the players who watch this show regularly are too. So here we had, there was no callers to us, we were in middle position, call with Jack 10, smooth call, it's quite a passive table, it's not being raised much before the flop, by that I mean it's passive as opposed to aggressive, so we can just smooth call it, see what the flop brings. Flop hasn't brought much, so we're just going to check it and check again. And at the end of the day, if we just lose $1 on this hand, that's fine. That's Jack 10.
well, surely the flop generally doesn't bring much when you have a Jack 10.
No, well, that's right. It's a drawing hand. I mean, the thing that people have to understand about drawing hands, or when you play a hand as a drawing hand, and that's an absolutely crucial distinction, is that you're going to win it less often. You know, it's going to be very rare that the flop is going to bring something that's going to make you feel you've got the best hand. That's the thing with drawing hands. The point is, the whole entire definition of drawing hands, people have got it into their minds that 6-7 suited is a good playable hand. It's not. It's a good drawing hand. What that means is that it's going to win rarely, but if you play it under the right conditions, which is against a lot of other players, or very aggressively against one weak type player who'll lay his hand down, and you're just using the cards as backup, if you're playing Jack 10 against a lot of players, or 6-7 suited against a lot of players, when it hits that hidden hand, has all the implied odds, yeah, and has a lot of pot odds to make up for all the times that you call with it and don't hit it on the flop.
Okay.
But people tend to have it into their mind, they've put it now into the part of their mind that says playable hand, they've left that sign on the door, and they think, why am I winning with, 6-7? Which, considering all the emails we get, dissing aces, kings and queens every time they're outdrawn, means what is a playable hand in poker? Well, this is why I keep coming back to my recurring point, which is stop thinking about them in terms of just being hands and start seeing the totality of the situation. You okay there?
Yeah, there's so much to get your head around when you think about, when you talk to you in general, Caspar. Make things, there is a lot to get your head around, but I find myself starting to do things on a subconscious level as well. I think to myself, God, I never really think about whether I'm giving them odds to call or not. But then I'll suddenly catch myself, and I am actually doing it.
Yeah.
I think, well, I did. I just made that too expensive for him to call. I didn't
Yeah.
want him to call. I didn't want him to get his flush because I've got 2 pair. And I do find myself doing these things. I think generally everybody will, the more they play.
Can I say something very pretentious now?
Yes.
Do you know the most pretentious thing I said on air with Tom the other day?
No. Very intrigued.
Quoted on the forums. I thought you read the forums. You've not read favourite quotes
Sometimes I
on
haven't.
P&L. I came out with the immortal phrase, I can't do any better here than quote Napoleon.
Excellent.
The thing is, it was a good quote, though. Okay, right, here's the pretentious bit. Basically, what we're trying to do at P&L is like speed up the learning process, okay? But if you want to learn anything, one of the things you should understand is a bit about learning, all right, and how we learn. There's something called Socratic learning, which is learning by doing, and then there's
That's
something
how I
which,
prefer to do it.
and there's something which I don't know the word for, and that's learning by learning what other people have said about something, right? And the simple fact of the matter is you should do both. And this is why I get angry with people who say, I don't like to read or learn from other people. That's nonsense, all right? You have to do both. People say, oh, there's no replace for experience. Of course there isn't a replace for experience. Of course no one's going to claim that a book or me sitting on P&L is going to replace experience, all right? Absolutely no replacement for experience. But neither neither is there any replacement for standing on the shoulders of giants. Neither is there any replacement for learning from the experience of others. You have to have the two together, right? When we're talking about Socratic learning, right, or learning by experience, or learning by self-revelation, if you like, rather than someone else helping us. Good old Lumas there has made his full house. Unfortunately, he's not going to get paid for it. He's going to bet here, and no, he's not even going to bet. Waiting for Pakistan to bluff into it, but Pakistan too clever for that, and good on Pakistan for not falling for that trap. Good stuff there. So when you learn from experience, the key that what you have to do is you have to make yourself a little bit aware of your experiences, right? And this is why one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give is stop and take your time, okay? Because you need those little moments, those little breathing points for your brain just to process what's happened and put it into the I'm learning from this category, okay? The reason why this is pretentious is because you're not going to see the results of this in the first day or week or even month of doing it, right? But you're slowly going to understand, if you give those little stop points, if you are daring enough to do what Matt Broughton suggests and take a little notebook to the table and make notes, or at the very least take some notes at the end of every evening, you will be slowly teaching yourself.
Isn't this, you and Nick used to do this in Vegas, didn't you?
Yeah, I used to keep a diary and I used to take notes for at the end of every session for the first year and a half. And less so after that. But at the end of every session, and I would go back and reread them, and I still have them today.
Wow.
Okay? That is Socratic learning. You are teaching yourself, you are going through things in experience. If you just hit the raise button, hit the call button, and just do these things very, very quickly, you are impeding your learning experience. Okay? You will not learn as quickly because you are not giving your mind time enough to process these things and time enough for it to pass from the left brain into the right brain. And what I mean by that is time for it to pass from a place which is analytical, right, into a place which is automatic and intuitive. But you have to go through the analytical phase first. You have to go what's called a phase of the learning cycle is this. You start off unconsciously incompetent. In other words, you're bad and you don't know you're bad, right? Then you go through conscious incompetence. In other words, you're bad, but you know you're bad, right? And then you go to conscious competence, which means you're good and you know you're good, right? Conscious competence, you know you're good. And then, at the end of that learning cycle, you go into unconscious competence. And that is, you're good and you don't even know it anymore because it's become natural. That's what you're like as a driver. You're probably a bad example of that, but a lot of people who've been driving for a couple of years are
That's probably a fair point.
Unconsciously competent. No, you will be, because you remember when you first started driving and you were always thinking about the biting point of the clutch? How often do you think about the biting point now?
I don't.
No, but you're too busy doing your makeup.
Lipstick in the mirror.
Yeah.
I don't.
So that's unconscious competence. But if you're learning poker, you've got to give yourself the space and time to learn and something to push against and taking notes of your experiences.
And is this coming back to you saying about you don't like the fact that people move too quickly on these tables? It's happening straight away.
Yeah, it does.
You think people should be thinking about it?
It does. They're not giving themselves enough conscious time with the situation. Now, I'm not saying that you need to do it all the time, but there are certain, people I think play too fast generally. Definitely. I don't think they take breaks enough. You learn in the breaks. It's like building muscle. In fact, it's just like building muscle. The analogy is a direct one. You do not build muscle when you're working out. What happens when you're working out is you break down the muscle and you tear the muscle and you put the muscle under stress, and then you should rest for at least a day, ideally 2, even 3, because that's when the muscle grows, because your body is a perfect machine that will adapt to whatever situation it's put under. So if your body thinks, God, I'm being stressed, I need to lift bigger weights, it will just build bigger muscles. As long as you're giving the protein to build, it'll build bigger muscles. It's exactly the same with learning. You put it under stress, you put yourself in situations that you're not familiar with, and you think about it, you take notes about it, and it's during that intervening period that your subconscious works overtime to take the information that it's gleaned from this book and that episode of Poker Night Live and all the rest of it, put it together so that when you're in that situation again, you've had the time and it's processed it and it comes out with a more correct answer. That's what learning is, that's how it works.
So thinking about that as well, should you then only be playing on one table? Because you do get a lot of people that will play on more than one table at one time, and we do say that's fine to do that, especially if you're not a very patient player. But using that exact example, are you better off just concentrating on the one table and working out what's going on, what you're doing and why you're doing it?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to serve your dues. I mean, my dues were sitting in Vegas for hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, initially playing 7-card stud. Now, if you ever sat in hotels in Vegas playing 7-card stud for 12, 14 hours a day, I think you've earned the right to talk about poker, because there is nothing that will demand more of your patience and focus and concentration than counting cards in one game, in a live game, at 25 hands an hour at a poker table. And there is a period of, dues to be paid to the game of poker. And yeah, I don't think it's too much to ask someone to play that in one game. And this is the reason why when you get a lot of emails saying, I'm going to play my first tournament, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, any advice? And we can give a couple of pieces of trite advice, but the simple best piece of advice we can give is to facilitate that learning process. So take a notebook, take your time, stay calm, do everything to make the best decision. Will that decision be good? No, but I can't give you the answers to the 45 million possible combinations of situation that you're going to find yourself in at a poker table. Mm-hmm. So it's all about getting your body to adjust to those different situations through giving it time to learn. I know this is boring and no one wants to hear this, but...
No, some people do very much want to hear this. It's all important stuff. I mean, a lot of our viewers are here to learn, and that's what you teach them. And I do actually have a question for you from my dad, the governor. Hey, Dad. He's cursing at me right now, but he asked... sorry, excuse me, but
Is he behind the camera laughing at you?
He said he's heard a lot on Poker Night Live about odds.
Yes.
And he says you should always play the correct odds, and if you're playing the correct odds, you should be a winning player. He says, but if everyone, he says it's not strictly true, because if everybody is playing the right odds, then how can you win?
Okay, have we got time for this answer? Are we all right?
Well, we could always, it's a long answer, we could always do it over the game.
About 2 minutes, yeah, should we go back to the game?
Okay, we're going to go to a multi-table tourney. So Dad, he's going to answer this for you, the governor, by the way. He's going to answer this for you when we go back to our game.
Can you get me off my speeding ticket? No. I haven't got a speeding ticket, of course, Mr. Governor. I've been driving very carefully for the last 2 years.
And he's not a traffic cop, by the way.
He can stick my backhander, can't he? No, obviously we're not implying that Mr. Orpe would do anything of that nature. What's the question? Right, yes, okay. Point number 1. Mm-hmm. Right. In a tournament, and indeed in a cash game, in a tournament, 10% of the money off the top goes to the house, yeah? Mm-hmm. In a cash game, the pot is rated to about 5% of the pot, right? Mm-hmm. What that means is that if you have 10, let's say it's 10 bots, but it could be 10 players of roughly equal standard, all right, sitting around that table, it means that it is perfectly possible for every single person around that table to be making a loss. All right? Mm-hmm. If 10% of your money off the top of the tournament and 5% of your cash game goes out of the game, you've got to be 5% better than the game in the cash game, and you've got to be 10% better than the field in a tournament to make money.
So you can only make money if other people are losing money.
Are losing money, and you can all be losing money if you're roughly all of equal standard. Okay? That's the first point. That's not your dad's point, but that's the first point to make that's really important to understand when it comes to poker. Mm-hmm. Here's the second point. The second point is, this is it's a relatively sophisticated point, but everyone who starts playing poker should know it, so let's go into this, right?
Okay.
The correct play in poker is usually, though not always, a tension, all right? There is a tension when deciding the best play between the mathematically correct play at that particular time, all right, and the long-term correct play given your psychological image and position around that table, okay? Right. Here's what I mean by that. If everyone was just calling you down when you made the correct play, as it is the case in some games, then you should just carry on making the mathematically correct play. That's not your father's point, but in that situation, you need to just play mathematically correct, and people's propensity to call will ensure that you make long-term profits, because they will make incorrect calls.
Right,
okay?
Yeah.
In the situation that your dad's talking about, if everyone were playing exactly the same, we go to James Browning's point, which is it is now the contrarian that makes money. So it becomes the person who makes mathematically incorrect plays, but which give him a psychological advantage, all right? Because if everyone were folding when they didn't have the correct cards, then the person who raised and made aggressive plays with 8-3 offsuit would take the money down, all right? Because even though it's the mathematically incorrect play, it becomes a psychologically correct play. It would have one of two effects. Either if people carried on folding, all right, you could make money with no cards just by raising with no cards. So you'd loosen up your pre-flop holdings, for example, right?
Yeah.
Because they'd fold. Or it would lead to a psychologically advantageous image because you'd start showing down 8-3 a bit, all right? And if they were good players or bots, they would have to adjust to your play, all right? And they would have to say, I now have to call this player more because it's clear that he's raising with 8-3. And that's when you would take advantage of that by reverting back to the kind of play that you were playing before, that was tight and aggressive, and they'd start calling you when you had aces and kings and make your flush made and your straight made, etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah, although if there is a difference between obviously the right play and psychological play, if you're making the right play all the time, you're not taking into account psychological play though, are you?
If you're making the right play all the time,
Or as
the
far as
mathematically
just
correct
mathematically,
play,
yeah.
according to the pot odds, then you know, hopefully you're in a situation where people are making incorrect calls against you. If you are playing, as I say, in a game where everyone were making the mathematically standard correct play, right, according to the pot odds and everyone around the table's natural propensity, you would immediately change that natural propensity. So in the first place, you would start to become more aggressive. And by becoming more aggressive, you would start taking hands down if people didn't adjust, okay? Because they'd start folding incorrectly, all right? What you want is for people to do the wrong thing, the incorrect thing. Now that's either calling incorrectly, if they're calling too often, or if they start calling at exactly the right frequency and folding when it's correct to fold. What you want is to then start to raise, representing hands that you don't have, and then they'll start folding when it's incorrect to fold. So they'll start laying down King 9, for example, on the button because you've raised from the cutoff with 8-3. All right? And if they're doing that, if they're incorrectly folding better cards because they've been correctly folding when you raised in the cutoff because you wouldn't raise anything less than Ace 9, then all of a sudden they start making a loss. So they'd have to readjust to you, and by the time they'd readjusted to you, computer in the world that could readjust to you instantly, there would always be a lag before their readjustment took place, and by the time they'd readjusted to you, you would start playing, you would start tightening up again.
Surely, though, you can never be readjusted to everybody's play, therefore you can never be soundly always making the right decisions yourself anyway.
And that is what poker is, and absolutely, you know, what I'm saying here is, the reason why I said it was deep is because it's a theoretical concept, and you're absolutely right to draw that out, Michelle. I'm never in a million years sitting here going, you can always decide what that correct play is. That's why, what's the thing I always say, the biggest single decision you make at a poker table is whether to play at that table. That's the biggest single decision.
That makes, I can completely back you up there as well. I really find the table a big deal. I can be sitting at a table and find it very comfortable, and I prefer tables that aren't necessarily very aggressive so I can become the aggressor, and that works very well for me. Whereas if I'm at a table where there's a lot of aggressive people, I then suddenly find myself lagging behind again and taken advantage of and pushed off pots. And that makes a big difference for me. And I feel very differently on both tables.
Absolutely.
On one table I'll make money, on one table I won't.
That's right, that's right. It's huge, and something that I've been saying for a little while now, which is that once you've got the basics mastered in poker, and once you're a decent solid player, and like I say, I think you need to pay dues to become that. It's not easy, it takes time and it takes application, and some people don't have that level of application. But once you've done that, actually, I think instead of trying to extract another 1 or 2% edge over the rest of the players that have got there, I think you're better off turning your attentions not to playing better against good players, but to finding and identifying bad players. Why try and get another 2% edge over a good player when you can spend all that effort finding an awful player who you have a 25% edge over? There was something that happened to me when I was in Las Vegas which really had a profound effect on me, and that was one day I was in the Mirage, and this cowboy came in, and I say cowboy because he was, genuine, he's from Texas.
Oh, cool.
Cowboy hat, denims,
or not denims.
Sorry?
Did he have the cogs coming down from the hat?
Cogs?
You know, the little coggy things that come down on the little strings all the way around the hat.
Isn't that an Australian?
Oh yeah, it's Australian, yeah. Sorry.
we'll push on. And he came in and he basically announced, and I won't do the accent, but he basically said...
well, howdy, partner.
Well, you do it for me. I'll whisper in your ear what he said and you...
well,
no,
bad.
let's not.
So let's not.
He said, basically, gentlemen, I've got oil under my land. I'm a very wealthy man. I'm here to have fun.
I love the way you've changed this American cowboy into being the uppermost class
yes,
of
I turned him
English
into Stephen
gentleman.
Fry. hello, gentlemen. I'm here to have fun, and I'm going to lose $30,000. Let's just have a look at this $30,000 playing out. Old Simo's got the full house. Fountain's pushed all in with ace-queen. Isn't that a wonderful moment? For Samo, he's got aces and tens. Fountain needs a queen to win. The full house takes it down. Great for Simo. Awful for Fountain. Fountain every right to think he was best there. So anyway, he said, I've got $30,000 to lose. And he lost it all in a night. And everyone around, so many different tables that night made enormous amounts of money. And what it made me realise was, it's something that I said on New Year's Eve, or the last show of the year, last year, was, we talk a lot about the medium term. That experience made me realise that whilst the cards break over in the medium term, actually life throws too many vagaries into the mix. And in actual fact, poker is just like life. It still all comes down to being in the right place at the right time. And that was a very sobering experience for me, and I know that runs counter to a lot of things that we say here live on air. So there you go. I've come clean. It's all a big lie.
It's all a big fat lie from Berry. Okay, well, don't worry, that multi-table tournament, we did talk over it, but I think it was a very interesting point, so thank you, Caspar. And Dad, I hope it's answered your question. And we're going to do some emails here. Now, that multi-table tournament, I do have all the info on that as well, so we'll probably be heading back to that slightly after the break. First of all, we have an email here from Dave. He says, Hi, Caspar. I have been playing single-table tournaments for about 3 months. I tend to not get involved at the start of the game unless I have a really good hand, but when players start dropping out, I start getting more aggressive. It seems to be working for me at the moment. Is this a good way to go, or have I just been lucky?
Hi Dave, well you know what, good example here of the fact that different styles work for different people and there is no right way to play in poker. I prefer a looser approach in the early stages of a sit and go, but what you said is absolutely fine. It's the style advocated by James and Mark and Dr. Tom, who don't like to play so loose in the early stages. One of the key things if you want to play loose in the early stages, you've got to be a little bit better than the game that you're playing in. I personally think that those three could play loose in the early stages. They're all excellent players. So that's the one argument for not playing loose. If you feel comfortable with that style, and if it's working, as I say, shorter, getting into the medium term with sit and goes is not that long a period of time. If you've got a good 100 under your belt and you're seeing significant profits, then it's working for you, and that's fantastic, so well done.
Excellent. Now I am going to have to touch here, we do talk a lot about book suggestions, and we do have a quick email here, so we'll very quickly touch on it. Simon, good evening to you, Simon. He says, can Caspar recommend any good poker books or DVDs to improve my game? I'm a relatively new player, only been playing less than a year, or are they all a waste of money just trying to cash in on poker's popularity?
Hi Simon, yes, as Michelle said, we do get an awful lot of emails about this, so try and answer this quickly or in a different way to usual. No, they're definitely not a waste of money. I mean, there are books that have been around long before this recent poker boom. I would say in general that a lot of books by top players are not that great, to be honest with you. The books that people recommend are not the Phil Ivies and the Phil Helmuths and the TJ Cloutiers. Dan Harrington's a notable exception because his book is exceptional and he's a former world champion and 3 times final table in the World Series of Poker, and his 3 books are excellent. But actually, the books that really work are by the people who happen to be good at teaching the game. So people like Bob Chiafoni, people will know that I recommend the 2+2 books. Anything by Mason Malmuth and David Sklansky I think is very, very solid thought about the game, although admittedly a lot of it is limit. Super System is a book that divides people. Some people like it, some people don't, but it's definitely not cashing in on the game. That's a book written by great players. I would probably recommend the first one. I think there are excellent chapters in the first one. I haven't read all the second one, to be completely honest with you. That's a little secret between you and me, because there are a number of chapters that turn me off, because it does become very sort of, I like to pop another bet in with 3 of kind on the flop. And I'm just reading this going, you know what? There are some absolute gems in this book, but there is also some statements which are just silly, in my opinion. If I had to recommend one book, or actually it's going to be 3 books, and that is volumes 1, 2, and the soon-to-be issued 3 of Dan Harrington's Tournament Strategy. It's quite advanced, but I tell you what, it is all absolutely fantastic. So, so there we go. That's what I'd say for a player. And if you haven't read The Theory of Poker, you've got to read The Theory of Poker.
Excellent, thank you. This is along our theme for the evening. Now, we did ask people what persona they would like to take on from a movie, somebody in the movies, to sit at a poker table with. And we have an email here from Snowblind. He says, hey there, great show as normal. I would have either one of the two. Edward Norton from American History X, or David Bowie from Labyrinth.
Excellent. Gosh, ages since I've seen Labyrinth.
I've got it at home, actually. It's a great film.
Doesn't surprise me.
He says, we'll be seeing it along with The Dark Crystal and Goonies. He says, P.S. Will I be seeing either of you guys up in Newcastle to play in the new casino Asper's, cracking card room like?
They wanted to get me to do some publicity for Asper's. They were going to call it Caspar's Aspers. They weren't going to call the casino
Caspar's Aspers?
Yeah, they were going to do this PR with Caspar's Aspers. It's going to be a great casino. I know the guy doing the PR, so he'll probably thank me for that. But no, it is going to be an excellent casino. And I am up in Newcastle for a week in February, so might see you there.
Can I come?
Yeah, very much so.
Excellent.
Come up and see me and Lindsay.
Email from Cara come too.
Very
Excellent. Email from Camcorder Steve. He says, PNL. I would have to be Mr. Blonde, Michael Madsen, from the film Reservoir Dogs. At least if I got outdrawn, I would cut your ear off, just for fun.
I'll tell you what, if you did cut my ear off, do you think my earpiece would stay in better or worse?
Well,
I'm not sure, it's quite a close call.
Well, come on, it is your first night with your new earpiece, so we have to let you off if you're struggling a little bit there.
Yeah.
Guess what, Joe's back.
Good.
We love you, Joe. Thanks for your excellent emails, however weird and odd they may be. This time, he says, I'll be honest, I've never actually used a movie persona as such, but I did once try putting a plastic bag on my head. It might have been working.
Is that an American Beauty reference?
Could be.
Or Elephant Man?
It might have been working, but I suddenly found out why they put these warnings on them. The guy folded, but I was exhausted and had to stop playing for a few hands and go and get a drink. In Caspar's professional opinion, is this evidence enough to draw a conclusion about its effectiveness as an intimidation technique, and is it worth the seemingly high risk of choking? Also, if he's ever tried using this in the past, are there any particular brands of carrier bag he suggests to achieve the best results? Thanks a lot, Joe.
Budgeon.
Budgeon.
Budgeon's reusable plastic bags are fantastic, very
better than
thick,
Lidl?
and you can get them sometimes with drawstrings,
Oh, wow.
which will give you the asphyxiation required. Is this a Tory MP, Joe? Is he? No? I don't know. Good stuff, Joe. Whatever does it for you, mate.
Thanks, Joe, and let us know how you're getting on with them edible chips. Email from Adam. He says, hello guys, great show and nice cardigan, Caspar.
Thank you. I thought
think he's being
break
sarcastic.
it down a little bit. I think he is too. Yeah.
Good. A couple of questions, really. Firstly, have you got any advice on not becoming too emotionally involved when playing poker? I find it really hard to not become annoyed when beat by a silly play or outdraw by a weak player. I find myself trying to beat the player with weaker hands myself in a sort of revenge tactic. I know this is wrong, but I find it hard to control myself, and Adam, we've all been there. You've really got to go after them buggers sometimes.
It's going to repeat in the afternoon, you know. I'll have to snippety-snip that bit out.
If you just glazed over that, no one would have been
No,
there.
I know. It's my fault. My fault for getting the sack. Okay. Well, you know what, Adam? I do talk on some occasions about mind control techniques, but we did talk a lot about that in sort of a few shows around the Christmas period, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that now, but do stay tuned. We'll talk about that later. It's not something you can condense down. I mean, basically, don't. You know you shouldn't. Don't. It's just something that you've got to... I mean, the basic things are, on a Post-it note, stick it on your screen. Give yourself a punishment. If ever you have to do that, then no pizza for a week, something like that, if ever you find yourself doing it. I tell you the seriousness of it, all right? In 1 hour of going on tilt with someone, you can quite easily blow all the money you've made theoretically that week. I say theoretically, I don't mean actually. I mean, if you're a winning player and you've put the hours in and you've made $3 an hour for the last 40 hours, you can lose more than $120 in expectation terms in 1 hour of playing badly. It really is that important that you don't do it. And actually, you know, the people that make money in poker, I think the single biggest factor that defines people who make money in poker is that they don't go on tilt. You know, we have Malcolm the Rock Harwood sitting in this chair many, many times. Why has he made a living for 44 years playing poker? Because he's controlled his tilt better than most poker players alive. And some people will make a living from like 5 or 6 years playing poker, and then they'll hit a down period, and it might be worse than their last down period, it might be the first really bad down period they hit, and they lose it all. they lose it all, and it's it's terrible. But you've got to stop it happening to you. So, like I say, I will go a little bit more constructive and further than that on some nights, but it involves getting heavy with your own mind.
Hard and heavy. Speaking about tilt, poor old Gary's gone a bit on tilt, I think. We're going to be reading his email out after the break. Do remember our theme for the evening. We're asking what persona you would like to take on a poker table, and we're looking for characters from films. We've had some great ones tonight already, haven't you? Who was your one? General Buck to Jetson?
If you try and say his name one more time and get it wrong, I'm going to start to get angry. Tidgetson.
Well, who is it then? Put us out of our misery.
It's Bucky from Doctor Strangelove.
Okay.
Played by George C. Scott.
There we go, that's Caspar's one. We've had some great ones from you guys. Who would it be? The text is 62211 if you would like to text into us, and the email poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Do remember we're also asking any questions about the game of poker, Texas Hold'em, what others are like.
Also, the mayor in Jaws, with his suit with the little anchors on. I'd quite like to be him in a game of poker.
Oh, in Jaws?
Yeah, just completely bats.
Yeah, that's quite a good one.
Just sort of quite arrogant and a bit...
We'll think again over the break, shall we? Come back with some good ones.
Okay, definitely.
Right, well, we're heading to a short break now. Do not go anywhere. Do not leave your chair unless you're making a quick cup of tea. And we'll be heading over to that multi-table tournament when we return as well, so well worth staying for. We'll see you in a moment. Good evening, welcome back to Poker Night Live. Tonight I've been watching some cash games, some tournaments. We've had some really good emails from you guys at home actually, along our theme tonight. We were asking for what persona you would like to be at a table, and you could pick a movie character. And we've got some really interesting ones. Thank you very much for those coming in. Let me quickly give you the text numbers again. It's 62211 if you'd like to text, and poker@pokernightlive.co.uk if you want to email. You know the drill, you know the numbers, I don't need to tell you. Before we went to the break, I did say I had a couple of stories of people tilting. Well, let me read out these two emails, and then you can give them some little friendly advice.
Okay.
Casper. This one's from Gary, the West Side Pencil Malloy. Good evening to you, Gary. Well, good morning to you, Gary. Now, he says, "Good evening,
Have
guys."
you got a watch on?
Yes, look,
Okay.
silver one.
Okay, cool.
People do that though. They look at it when they haven't got one on. Right. Okay. Today is a very sad day, as I have decided to stop playing poker. I consider myself a very good player, and everyone I play agrees. I have been playing for 18 months, and for the last 16 months I have consistently took bad beats. So often that down my local casino people raise me all in every hand with anything, as they know they will outdraw me. Last night was a standard beat for me. I had pocket aces and the flop came ace king 7. Someone bet into me and I raised all in. He called with pocket kings. Pretty confident he could outdraw my set of aces, and sure enough, he did. He got running kings to make 4 kings. These kind of beats and the standard bad beats are too much for me, and I always lose and never ever get lucky myself. I have been nicknamed the Pointless, as I always make correct decisions, but it gets me nowhere. I am living proof that some people are consistently unlucky in poker. You should come and watch me to believe it. By the way, love the cardigan, Caspar, and Michelle, you look beautiful as usual.
Do you know what? It's creating a right fuss, isn't it, the cardi?
It is creating a fuss tonight. Look at you and the influence you have on our viewers in your wardrobe.
Do you want a little secret, folks? I set off, I was about 10 minutes away from home, and I went, damn, forgotten the jacket. So I thought I'd try and bluff it and say, all intentional, trying to create a different vibe tonight, more living room. Actually, it was just a mistake.
I brought another top with me, a nice brown tight number. You could have worn that.
It wouldn't have, no.
I think it would look lovely on you.
It would have been too baggy around here.
When I do this next one, I need you to do a bit of do-do-do-do.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Because we've got another one. Before we talk about that, Gary...
We will talk about it, Gary.
We will talk about it, but yeah. I do have another one here. This one is from Odd-Shaped Balls. He says, "Hi guys. First of all, you're a lot better looking than them two fellas last night." Oh, he's talking about Dr. Tom and Barry.
Well, he's right.
It's fair point. He says, "I've just had a pretty rough day and my confidence is shattered. Been playing $1, $2 blinds, cash games. Get a strong hand, play it strong, don't hit. Hands unfolding."
I'm not allowed to sing the actual tune because we'll have to play. Yeah, so I'm just making one up.
Okay. It's really bad. "The hands unfolding are flopping straights, 2 pairs, etc. I usually play pretty tight. I also think I'm not stealing enough pots. Have I just had one of those days, or do I need to change my game? Any advice would be greatly welcome. Great show, keep it up. You're just going up the scale, like in...
I'm not, I'm doing something atonal. I think it's quite
really
special.
bad.
Yeah, it is awful.
Yeah, pretty bad. But you get the idea. A couple of our players here, Old Oddballs and Gary. You know, they're having bad... What about Gary? Every time he just says he hasn't had a luck in 18 months.
You know, as people know, I had weeks once in the Stanley where I didn't win a showdown. I know exactly how it feels. I mean, I just used to go, what do I have to do? And I felt, you know, it got to the point where it's exactly the same. Players just were laughing about the fact that I never won a showdown. If I bet and no one called, that was okay, that was cool. But if I bet and someone called, it wouldn't matter what the situation... I mean, your aces is a horrible outdraw, but it wouldn't matter what it was. They'd hit it. It's so...
sad.
No, it's tricky. I don't know, you know, I genuinely don't know what to say. How can I sit here and improve someone's luck? I mean, Gary, I'm going to say what I'm going to say now, and I want you to understand, I don't know you, never met you, you could be the next Stu Unger, you could be the worst player in the world, so it doesn't matter to me. You know, if you were a bad player, you will notice the times you get beaten because you've made a bad play, and you'll notice the times you get beaten out of bad luck, and you'll call it all bad luck. In your head, you'll call it all bad luck. You say you're a good player and everyone you play with agrees. They could be agreeing because they like you playing there and taking your money. I'm not saying they are, Gary, you've got to understand that. I don't know you from Adam, all right? I'm just saying that would be the sort of thing they would do. Or you could be a good player who's got unlucky in you know, 16 of the last 18 months. And all joking aside, excuse me, that can happen. It can happen. We can talk about the long run till we're blue in the face. It can happen. So what do you do about that? Well, I don't know what the answer to that question is. I don't know what to say to someone in that situation is, except that whatever has happened in the past, I know this, is no indication of what's happening as what's going to happen in the future, because they're independent events. Mm-hmm. So to think that what's happened in the past is any indication of the future is like thinking that a roulette wheel, if it hits red 4 times in a row, will then hit black. Or indeed, like thinking if a roulette wheel hits red 4 times in a row, it will then hit red, because there's some sort of pattern. You know, they're independent events. One has no cause on them. Just think about it for a moment. Just think about the roulette wheel and just ask yourself, if you're an alien coming down to Earth, whether what it had done before had anything to do with it. The ball is spun, it's going around that fast, it's nothing to do. What's happened last time has nothing to do with the way the ball lands this time. And it's exactly the same with the cards. The way the cards have turned for you in the past, which sounds horrible, there's no indication of how the cards are going to turn in the future. Now, in a way, that's like a rational, conscious justification of why you should carry on playing poker if you want to. But actually, we don't do things for those reasons. Actually, we do things because, as human beings, we associate more pleasure with the act than pain. So for various reasons, poker, and indeed gambling generally, is associated more with feelings of pleasure. The pleasure that we feel when we win is actually greater than the pain that we feel when we lose. And what you're saying right now is that on that seesaw of pleasure and pain, the pain is becoming so great that it's actually outweighing the pleasure, and you want to stop playing. And there's actually nothing that I can say that will consciously change your mind on that.
Although you did say to me when I texted you all upset because I'd lost 6 tournaments in a row, which is obviously not on the same scale. But you said to me then, look, you've got, like you say, you say the long run.
I think I said, I'm busy, leave me alone.
But you did say there's loads of points where I'm going to go below 0 in my account and come back up again.
Because you don't have enough bank. Taught everything he knows. Classic.
But you've lost, like you say, he's lost for 18 months in a row. There's nothing to say that he could lose for another 2 months and then win for 18 months in a row.
No, and there's nothing to say that he's not going to lose for another 18 months in a row. I mean, we have to be open-minded to the fact, you don't have to be, Gary, I do, sitting here, that Gary's a losing player, in fact, right? And that he's actually a losing player who has also experienced some bad luck. But if the long run with tournaments is actually, 3 years, sounds to me like you're playing tournaments, certainly if you're playing in your local casino, most of those games are tournaments, that, you just have a terrible short run. Because tournaments can come down to 4 hands in an evening. Well, if a statistically significant period is 100,000 hands and you're judging it by 4 hands, then it's very, very difficult to judge it. It's terrible. It's a terrible situation. I don't know what to say to either of you.
Well, Oddshoots Balls does say he's a pretty tight payer. He thinks he's not stealing enough pots. Now, does this make a big difference? in his
I
tournament.
mean, I think that's sometimes the and again, odd-shaped. I don't know you personally. Certainly can't verify your nickname in any way. Saying I'm not seeing enough pots is very often the last refuge of a player who's having bad luck and feels like, oh God, I'm getting short stacked because I'm losing some of those key showdowns in the course of a tournament. It doesn't mean actually that you should be playing any more aggressive or loose or anything else. So it's one of those awkward situations where, not having watched your game and studied it and sat down with it, it's very difficult for me, stuck here in the studio, to say anything. But it doesn't mean that at all. It could just be bad luck. And how many times do we say that? And it breaks my heart, actually, because you know that I want to say something constructive, and I'm sort of fighting to find what that is. I think a lot of things that I would say here would be platitudinous. Come on, platitudinous. Buck your ideas up and let's get on, and tomorrow's another day. And if that's the way that you feel, I can't change your luck.
No. But just keep trying, don't give up yet.
That's the platitudinous thing. You've literally just done exactly what I said would be pointless.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to fight. We're going to go to a multi-table tournament. Sorry, guys, we're going to go to a multi-table tournament. Let's head straight over there, because look, we're on the last table. Last little table. I've got some info here, actually.
Fantastic.
About the multi-table tournaments. Let's have a look at that. Ooh, that's actually up to date now. But I can give you the info on what we started with. So let's go straight to that. Right, we started with this $10 multi-table tournament, so they've all put in $10. For that, they've been given 1,500 chips. And there was 269 entrants and 34 tables. Now, we haven't touched on a multi-table tournament tonight, Cass, so how does this work with 34 tables and 269 entrants?
Well, each of those 269 entrants have all bought in for $10, plus the $1 vig, or rake, to the house. So we've got a prize pool there of $2,690, no surprises there. On this occasion, they're actually paying down to 20th place, so the top 20 are all going to make the money. So just like the top 10, well, sorry, the top 3, we're going to make the money in a $10 sit and go. In a $10 multi-table tournament, the whole of the top 20 are going to win. But it's only about, it's just less than 10% of the total, because there were 269 entrants. And even if you battle through, you pay $10 to get in, and you battle through 249 players, you're only going to make $14.21 profit. So it's not going to pay the mortgage. And the thing to understand is that your long-term expectation in this tournament, your long-term expectation is probably to just double or treble through your stack. So if you play 10,000 multi-table tournaments, and I'm not saying you ever will in your lifetime, but if you do, your expectation, and by the way, it's a shorter long-term than that, but if you were to play 10,000, you would probably figure on making between $10 and $20 per tournament, I would guess. And that's quite depressing, really, isn't it? That's your long-term expectation. What that means is that sometimes you're going to bust out without making the money at all. Sometimes you're going to make $739. If you're a good player, you might have a bigger expectation than that. If you're a good multi-table tournament player, you've got a lot of experience behind you, got a certain system that works for you. Perhaps you found a site where the players are pretty bad and you're exerting a great edge. Maybe we can up that to $40 or $50 as a long-term expectation. Otherwise, you're making that in each tournament. But a lot of conditions and factors do have to be right for that to be a long-term expectation. So the depressing thing there is that you could win it, make $739, you could come second and make $470, but actually you've only made $40 or $30 or $10, whatever your expectation was. It's quite depressing when you think about it like that, isn't it?
It's more to do with the enjoyment factor, maybe?
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, this is only a $10 multi-table tournament, so you wouldn't expect to be rich playing a $10 buy in anything, would you?
$10 is a lot of money to some people.
That's fine. I'm not belittling the value of $10. You naughty thing.
Oh, yeah. That time of the night, is it?
I don't mean like that. I don't know. You tell me. Sean Moe has raised it up with a pair of kings. Let's have a little watch of the game for a bit. We've talked enough theory. I'm all theoried out.
Yeah, shall we concentrate on hands?
Yes, can we?
Look at this, 3-2.
3-2s versus pair of kings. Poor old Sean Moe. Yeah, very hidden. There's your implied odds for you, folks. Cowshed about to take a big chip lead now. Look at that.
Actually, a jack would have saved him there, wouldn't it?
It would have. Good board reading there, partner.
Partner?
That would have made
Is that
3
Welsh?
jacks
Welsh
and 2
cowboy?
kings instead of 3 twos and 2 jacks.
Now, reading the board is a huge part of the game, isn't it? And
It's massive.
you don't do it when you start. You're too busy concentrating on what you've got. And what's the best way to acquire that skill of being able to look at the board and knowing, when seeing the hands there? Is it just practice makes perfect?
You tell me, what do you think? You're closer to having picked up that skill from the start.
Definitely practice makes perfect.
Okay.
Just keep watching, keep doing it. And do you know what? It gives you something to do as well when you're waiting to play. Look at the board, work out what people have got, look at how they're betting. That's what I did and still do to a certain extent.
Excellent.
And it gave me a lot of information on the players I was watching as well. And
Excellent.
I always kind of commentated on it in my head as well. Sometimes even out loud.
Brackets not compulsory. Cowshed Tom has a king. Will he bet it? Is it Odwy in seat number 2? Will Odwy raise him if he does? He's got him out kicked. Bigger kicker. Kings with a queen kicker. Beats kings with a 7 kicker. Best 5-card hand. Pair of kings. Queen, 9, 5. Best 5-card hand in poker, folks. Always takes the money down if it comes to a showdown. Look at Cowshed with his big stack and his big queens.
I'd say the next person out is going to be leaving with $161.
There you are.
This is the last table now out of our 34.
Despite my boring long-term expectation observations, it's nice to see someone winning some money. Raises with the queens, takes it down. Job done. Button moves. And we're off. King 8 there in a stealing position. Pair of 4s in the small blind. No steal from Madman. Pair of 4s now in the small blind. Pushes all in. Just wants it ended there and then.
Slightly risque though.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, to be honest with you. I mean, once again, and this is not a dig at you, we can analyse it to death, but you know, it is what it is. It's fine. It won. And that's a terrible argument, but it did win. You can't deny it. Can't deny it. Now, Odwy's got a decision now. He's got an ace. He's made a small raise with it. He's really got to put this down now. He does not have a call in this situation. I think Dipless has gone in for much more than the 2,700 that we can see there. Yeah, 81,000. It was something like 72,000 at the time. Odwy doesn't want to call and put his whole tournament on the line with ace-9. I don't know whether Dipless has been a good solid player throughout this tournament, but ace-9 is not a calling hand. And that's a good disciplined fold there from Odwy. You know, he's lost $6,000 on it. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world, but got to lay it down. There's your Jack-10 there, and that's exactly when Jack-10 becomes good. Is it great because it's big cards? No, not really, but it's got a lot of options. It's got a lot of outs. It's that kind of, you know, even if it is up against a pair, as we've said, it's a very, very small underdog. It's not Jack-10 suited, so it's not a small favourite. But we're okay in that situation with Jack-10, and when we get 5-handed like this, we're probably going to use that to raise, as indeed we did. So it's all about situation and context, isn't it, Michelle?
Yes, Caspar.
Are you listening?
Yep.
Are you even
I
listening?
always listen to you.
Really?
Yep.
A3 versus King 3.
Your beautiful toned voice glides through my mind.
And out the other side.
Straight out the other
Yeah,
side.
that's exactly what she was motioning with her hands. Folks. That wasn't me being rude. That was just me picking up on the very obvious subconscious body language.
And as a poker player, you need to have good body language if you're playing live games.
That's right. You're going to have a good read on other players' body language. But let's not get into that now. Let's watch these hands developing. I just think, you know, some viewers do accuse us of missing out on the hands, and we've had a lot of theory chat tonight, haven't we? It's been good theory-heavy chat.
Yes, I've been talking a lot of theory tonight, Caspar.
You've been probing me.
Well, whose instruction? I had.
Sorry?
Nothing.
Ace-4 versus 6-queen. Cowshed Tom calling in the big blind with his big stack. Misses the flop completely. Checks
Ace-2,
it
3,
down.
4.
Doesn't want to be making any silly moves. Yep, he's dead to a 5. Needs a 5 if he's going to win this with a
Question
straight.
again.
He has the ace high and the 2 checks from Cowshed. Say to him, this guy's weak. Unless he's trapping, I'll make a small bet. See if he's trapping. If not, I'll take it down. Pair of 10s in the big blind. It's only 3,000 in the big blind, and we've got a raise of 3 times the big blind. Now, I think this is a tricky move, actually. Call or re-raise with a pair of 10s, to be honest with you, because it's perfectly possible for Madman to have raised in that first position with jacks, queens, kings or aces. So I don't think the re-raise is
Madman
obvious
goes out
there.
with that.
Yeah, and Madman's just gone out of the tournament with the ace-9 from first position, which is exactly what we talked about. Folks, if you're in a tournament and you're winning, you know, $200 odd, and you've got a chance of winning 739, are you going to go out of that tournament with ace-9? I know he didn't have the biggest stack in the world, but ace-9 in first position, it's not where I want to go out.
No. This is where you got to pick your moment.
It is about picking moments, and your moment has to be a combination of cards and circumstances and situation, and that for me was just not the situation. Oh, it's easy to say now, Madman, you know, you'll be watching this commentary now, 5 minutes ago you've just bust out and you'll be wanting to stove my head in, and I don't blame you. If someone said that to me after I got out of a tournament, I want to stove their head in. But for me, not the time to make that particular move. And you could say, oh, Caspar, I could sit there for ages and wait for aces and they won't come. The blinds are going to eat me up. I agree with that, but it was the first positional nature of that combined with the ace-9 and then the call afterwards that just made it tricky for me. And Diplos here has no fear. Look, he's pushing that big ace. Ace-Jack, not the best hand in the world. We always call it the best trash hand, but he's figuring that players are making moves now with bad aces. And he's doing something slightly counterintuitive there. He's making a move there against the chip leader. He's obviously seen Cowshed Tom make a couple of moves with bad aces, and he said, enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make this ace-jack pay. Yes, you could have ace-queen or ace-king. But even if you've got pairs up to tens, I'm basically a 50-50. And I've got a lot of probability of you folding. So, interesting little hand there. Odwy, again, checking his king. We've seen him do that a couple of times. He's got position on Cowshed. Cowshed bets, he raises. Cowshed calls with nothing on that occasion, if I'm seeing that betting correct. Just checks again. And Odwy now in a checking situation, really, I think, was Cowshed really going to call with a pair of tens, or a pair of threes, or a smaller pocket pair? Probably not, in my opinion, not by that river time. Could have had a 2 and check raised him.
Little pair for Odwy. He needs to find out if Cowshed is holding that ace. How do you do it?
Makes a bet, asks a question, or writes in the chat box.
What have you got? Do you have the ace?
Do you honestly do that? Do you do that?
Do I? I
Yeah.
have sometimes. I do that thing as well where someone's made a big raise and I'm blatantly not going to call it, but I don't want to know they can push me off that easy, so I put, in the chat box, as if I'm really thinking about it.
Good.
Before I
And
fold it.
you're called Night Nurse online?
Yep, I certainly am.
And how many players recognise you from the telly?
Not so many on the site I'm playing at the moment as they did at the one before, but somebody Googled me at the table and they knew my name from watching the show, and they said, are you the Night Nurse from the Poker Night Live? And I said, yeah, that's me. And he Googled me and he come back on. A lot of the other players were American, obviously they wouldn't watch. Yeah. He was like, oh, go to Google and type this name in and click on images and all this at the table, and I was like, oh no.
Dear.
I mean, it was quite funny. Do you know, it was a really friendly table and we got chatting about it and it was really lovely, actually. It was a good bunch. And I made a couple of friends from that table as well. Marty Doc, the Doc brothers, Marty and Benny, they won that table, one of them. That's how I got to know them.
Excellent.
And they kept watching my play as well and giving some of them, I think Marty and maybe even Benny actually been playing longer than me and was giving me tips, letting me know how to do the multi-table tournaments. It was really lovely.
Excellent.
What I find even funny about the chat boxes is when people call my dad a muppet. I think it's hilarious. I think if you knew him in real life, you would never dream of it.
No. That's why I called him Mr. Orpe earlier on. The commander. No, the governor.
The governor.
That was a genuine mistake. Can I just point that out? I just want to make that very clear. 2 diamonds, 2 spades. It's all happening. Odwy has a top pair to boot, but he's just been outdrawn. Look at that. 5 diamonds for Cowshed Tom. That's a flush where I come from.
That is flush.
I wonder if it's a flush in his Cowshed.
Now 4 diamonds wouldn't be a flush, would it?
The 2 chip leaders playing there. And Cowshed makes a lovely healthy profit and goes right into the chip lead, helped by himself. Like Seb Coe.
Yes. King 7 versus Ace 3.
Remember Seb in his prime, accelerating out of the pack. Never get boxed in. Very clever. Oh, Odwy.
Look at that. Trick
Flops a
kings.
her.
He needs an ace now to get some money for Cowshed.
He does. That's exactly what he needs. Will Cowshed bluff it? Will Odwy raise this? Maybe a good call this actually, because if Cowshed's got a club, he's praying that Cowshed's got a club. He's got a 3. Now's the time to raise, obviously. He's desperate for Cowshed to have a club, and unless Cowshed has a rush of blood and goes, "Oh, come on the dollars," and pretend I've got the ace of clubs, that's a nice little pot for Odwy there. Tipless. 3 times the big blind with his 2s, been quiet recently. I'm sure Salada will call that with his Queen 10. He does more than call, he pushes all in. It's an interesting move that from Salada actually. It was a relatively big pot. He's certainly saying I'm not going to have my blind stolen. He's making a kind of play that Tipless has to have a really big hand to call, and he's saying, you know, I think that was probably a positive expectation play, actually. I think there was enough in that pot to make that a good, strong, positive expectation play. And once again, now Salada using what we call the big momentum. It's not my term, it's made up by an American journalist.
Well, the next person out is going to be taking away $215. It's not bad.
Odwy with 2 times the big blind raise, and Tipless pushes all in again. Look at that with ace-queen. These players are aggressive, good aggressive play. Happening here, live, before your eyes, with a 5-minute delay to protect the integrity of the game.
The aggression at this stage is always nice. It really annoys me when you get to there's the last 3 or 4 in the tournament and people are just being passive and not doing anything.
Jack 10. Raises it up, 4 times the big blind.
Jack 10,
says,
talking about
absolutely,
that?
says this gives me enough backup. I'm not really playing the cards here. Doesn't like that call so much. He's got position on him. Guy bets out. Got an inside straight draw, but he's really got nothing now. So regretfully, Salada, unless he wants to try the big move, the big all-in, the semi-bluff, got to fold. Good fold.
Okay, that was good actually, because he raised it up, it come out, he missed it, somebody bet into him, he put it down fair enough. No tricks.
No, as you say, tricks. Your child.
Thank you.
Michelle, messing around here off air.
Such a fat liar.
A night of unprofessionalism tonight, isn't it?
I think it's been you all the way along, and now you're trying to blame me.
You going to put this show on your show reel?
Do you want tea on your head?
Ooh, that's scolding as well. Cruel. It's the kind of thing that makes the tabloids. If I was a child...
Wow, we're going back a few years there, aren't we? How old are you?
Can we not dwell on my age these days?
Well, why do people worry about their age?
Because, you know...
People don't mind that you're 39.
Hit an age like 32, you start losing a little bit of hair. The best days are behind you, aren't they?
What do men do when they start losing their hair? Shave it.
Panic. It's horrible.
See, we don't have that problem.
Some women do. Cheryl Baker does. It's on the tubes. It is. That's not slander. She's on the tube saying, "Do you worry about thinning hair? I used to."
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's not me.
Well, nobody said anything. 3 of them still in the pot. Nobody has a thing. Although a 10 would give it to Odwy, and there it comes. 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. House can't call, takes it away. Whereas Cowshed can have a little dig at a re-raise.
Yeah, he might see Odwy, it's been checked so many times here, and Odwy in last position might see it as a steal. He might not have been considering anything at all there. That could have just been the pause created by the internet connection. Odwy getting a nice little run here, isn't he, with his ladies in the hole.
Caspar.
What?
Nothing.
Oh, that was you. Got another email from someone who says he wants to be Jules in Pulp Fiction, Sam Jackson's character.
Yeah, because we mentioned that earlier, didn't we?
Absolutely, and I agree, because he's a bad mother.
And we couldn't remember his name.
And Stephen says that. He could remember his name. I went on IMDb. Jules Winfield is his full name, which I would never have remembered or guessed.
Oh, I forgot to say, what about Victor Hoodlum? And he's the baddie in Four Brothers, which is a new movie that's just come out. I watched the other day, and I quite enjoyed it. And he's the baddie. He's a real proper baddie, though, and all these little baddie men all play poker with him, and they're so scared of him shooting them if they win that even when they're beating him, they pretend they're not and fold, and then muck and say, "No, you've got me."
Really?
Yeah, so he'd be a good one because everyone will fold to you.
Tell you another one who's really hard, and I'm dredging my memory now, but in Nikita, in La Femme Nikita, the original Nikita, the original French film.
Don't speak French.
It's either the guy who originally trains her, or it's the baddie in Nikita. I might look it up in a minute. He's so cool.
Do you watch a lot of world cinema?
No, I used to when I was into films.
My sister does actually, and she's trying to get me to watch this Italian love story, but I just can't get her head around the subtitles.
Can I recommend an Italian film for you?
Mm-hmm.
Cinema Paradiso.
Cinema Paradiso.
Yeah.
Is it good?
I think it's the most beautiful film ever made.
Really?
Yeah. It's that and E.T. I think are the two greatest tearjerkers of all time.
E.T.'s lovely. It's a very Christmassy film from the E.T. Along with the usual Santa Claus the movie.
I thought you were going to say Wizard of Oz, but no, Santa Claus the movie.
I love Santa Claus the movie.
I know, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, let's have a look. At the moment, Cowshed in the lead, closely followed by Oddwee. Now the next prize, fourth prize, is going to be taking away $215. Who's it going to be? Queens against Ace King. Might see a pot building here. Cowshed decided to raise with an A7. Unfortunately, he's against sevens, queens and Ace King, so not a good time to do it. But he doesn't know that. A7 is suited, so he's got some outs. Oddwee doesn't want to know with these sevens. All in from Celadon. How does Ace King do here? Yep, all in. And Cowshed's got to be worried now about his A7, surely. Although he does have the spades, we can see in his favour. Yes, he's come in with it. He's hit his ace. Titmus looks like he's going to be taking this. And he does. Wow, goodbye to Celadon. Celadon takes $215.
Inconclusive from the internet. Obviously, Ampareo is the star of La Femme Nikita. I think it's Marc Duret is the hard guy.
I love the internet. I'm into a
a sweeping statement. I love the internet.
I'm into a new series called Threshold at the moment on Sky, which is brilliant. And the woman from it, I really recognised her. And I thought, I'm sure she's the woman from the Bon Jovi video, always. And it turns out she is.
7, 8, 9, 10. But Diplos has just made a pair of queens with another gut shot draw. None of them had the flush, and Oddwee says, you know what, I just don't have enough here. That's good play from Oddwee. Good play. King Jack in the big blind. Cowshed Tom. Just smooth calling here. Now, I quite like that, actually. There's a number of reasons why I like that. Diplos, even though he's got a King Jack, is not confident enough to raise it up, because that's the kind of thing that Cowshed Tom would do with aces. So, whilst it's mathematically, if you like, an incorrect play, it has a real sort of psychological deception to it, which I quite like. It's a playbook play at the time when Cowshed Tom has still got enough bets in his stack to make some tricky plays. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not a play that was made like an automaton incorrectly. It was a good joined up play, should we say? Tom and I talk about joined up poker. And that was a good joined-up play. It forced Diplos into making a mistake. And if your opponent makes a mistake, then you have made money.
Well, that's all very interesting.
You love the internet. Do you know what I love? Oceans. They're brilliant, aren't they? All that salt water. What else do you love?
I find it easy to ignore you sometimes. Then I won't rise to it.
Very wise. Very wise. Sage-like.
Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom.
Is there a problem with your mic?
Recognise this? This is the poem that Baldric from Blackadder made up when they were about to go to war.
I'm laughing, that's very funny. Yeah.
Steve has emailed us in saying the character he would become is from TV rather than the big screen, but he says he'd be Baldric from Blackadder because no matter what the situation, he would always have a cunning plan. That's fantastic, Steve.
Excellent. Has Odwy got a cunning plan to extract the value from this ace? No, it's check, check, bet and take it.
That is brilliant. I have a cunning plan, sir. That's my favourite one so far. Good,
excellent.
Do love a bit of Baldric. In the comical sense, of course.
Do you know what? I forgot all about that poem. It's very funny. Cowshed Tom was once the chip leader, but oh how things change. Pushes in, gets called by a pair of nines, hits a 7, needs an ace or a 7. He's out. We say goodbye to Cowshed Tom, and you know what? We're heads up. Well done, Tom. You played some good stuff.
$309 he leaves with. Not bad.
Bad luck. The Dippers have been playing very well, in my opinion. Making some really good raises and laydowns. Good aggressive, controlled aggression, as Phil Helmuth calls it. Pure aggression is pointless. Controlled aggression is all. And Dipless has Odwy outchip 3-1, which on this occasion is good and healthy for Dipless because the blinds aren't too high. And we reached that heads-up stage. What have you learned about heads-up recently, Michelle? What would you say to a player learning the heads-up game?
Well, you should be pushing in 50% of the time, definitely.
Pushing in? Going all in? Really? Don't you mean
when the blinds are very high?
Oh yeah, but the blinds aren't high at the moment.
Oh, so in this particular situation?
In this particular situation.
Because before, like I said, when I first started, I always sat back and waited for really good hands, and I realised that I really didn't need the hands I was waiting for.
Absolutely.
And I was missing low. And it started surprising me when I started calling these all-ins from other people and realising they were having like King 4. I believe I got to King 4, and I suddenly realised these were the type of hands people were going in with. And I realised I didn't need to wait for my King, Queen and top pairs, you know. Yeah, with a lot of play still going. Do you know what? I haven't been in the situation that often where there's a lot of play left heads up. I'm generally in I haven't played many multi-table tournaments. I'm generally in a sit and go, at which point the blinds are generally quite high when you get to this point. So I haven't played much of it, to be honest. I did watch the Heads Up Championships the other day and found it all very interesting. I play more at home. Like, I might sit with my dad and play, or when I'm on a plane, sit with my friend, and we played it all the way there. So I actually learned more from that.
Yes, well that's good, I think. That's great to do, definitely. I've said many times that me and Nick learned an enormous amount from Heads Up over the years by playing each other. So that's great stuff.
Yeah, and I do quite well at that, to be honest. I think it's something like my score against my mate is about 12-2, I think. But it's a very different game.
Yes. Yes, it is. It becomes correct to play a lot more hands for the first time.
Pairs have more of an influence on whether you stay in or not, I
Absolutely,
find.
absolutely. Ace-9 raises it up, pair of fours, pushes. Oh, we have a call. And the pair of fours wins, full house. Kings and fours, Odwy doubles through. Just shows how quickly it can all change. Let's see if it changes again. 8-10 versus 8-2. Fold sorts that one out.
Jack 2, King 3. We'll just call from Dipless, hits his king. And a 3, 2 pair. It's a shame that Odwy didn't hit a jack, because that would have been interesting. Not for Odwy, of course. Jack 8, 10, 5. The suitedness, does that come into play when you're playing heads up like this?
No, because again, we went into detail, Tom and I, on this a little while ago. The suitedness really only comes into play when if you add 5% onto a 50-50 is very little, but 5% six-handed, when the average winning hand is going to be winning only about about 17% of the time, that's massive. Do you know what I mean? That's like a third again. So the flush value of a hand is really only really comes into play when it's multi-handed. Does it make a difference? Yeah, it makes a little difference. It's fine, but it's not a big difference. No.
Well, second place here is going to be taking $470, and first place is going to be taking $739. A big difference between these two wins. These guys have a lot to play for. As you can see, the big blind is on the button. That does vary, depending on what site you're playing on. Or king, not much for Odwy.
Just calls 7, 8, 9, 10 for Odwy, but the pair of 10s makes the pot odds very, very different. I mean, heads up, they're very, very different anyway. Got a pair of 9s now. Is it going to be good enough? Yes, he raises it. Well, not sure. I wouldn't prefer a call there.
Dipler's still in the lead. Ooh, now Odwy may get a call from Dipler's here. Oh, he's just... Ooh, Dipler's has raised it. Odwy's going to be liking this. He raises, called. Diamonds will help Dipler's out here. Or at this point, indeed a 9, but the big bet did it, and Dipler's was out of there. Ace 3, king 6. Does your ace come into play a lot more here as well? Does it not matter that you've got a low kicker? Can you think, right, I've got an ace, I'm ready to go? When, obviously, rag aces at the very beginning, we say don't play with them, blah, 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 but heads up again, an ace, get an ace, however raggy it is, you can think, right, I'm going in.
Heads up, an ace is big, but you do have to be aware of them, Michelle, for exactly the reason you pointed out there, which is the raggy ace. Yeah, if you raise and someone re-raises you and you've got a raggy ace, you can put it down, right?
Okay.
Likewise, if you hit an ace, if you bet out and someone re-raises you, if you've got a raggy ace, put it down, because the precise hand that they're going to be re-raising you with is a better ace.
Ace 5, misses from both sides. Queen, they're both checker. Another ace. We can see the king's taking it, takes the raise. Nicely done, Dipler's. 10, 6, ace 3. Sit down. Odwy doesn't need to be worrying about playing with the 10, 3 at the moment. On the small blind. Is it more advantage, or does it not make a difference, to be on a small blind or a big blind?
Well, we say this many times, poker sites have the blinds different to how it should be in a cash game. They have them more logically, incidentally, with the small blind off the button, but tradition has it that the big blind, the small blind is actually on the button and the big blind is off the button. So what this means in this situation is that the small blind is very definitely the worst of the two situations, because on the big blind you've already put the big blind in and you're on the button, so you're allowed to speak all the time. Mm-hmm. So the button is always the most powerful position in poker, and the situation is even better because we've already put some money into the pot. Right. So we're going to get a more free ride. So we should be playing many more hands in the button situation. But Dan Harrington, in his excellent book on tournament poker, or I think it's volume 2, says that it's almost always correct to call from the small blind in a heads-up tournament if you have enough bets in your stack, because you're very often getting pot odds. It's very rare that you're not getting the pot odds from the small blind in that situation.
Interesting. 2, 4, 5, 6. Odwy got gut shot. 4, 5, 6, 7. Dipler's has the up and down, but both miss. Odwy's hit his king, though. Well, these two certainly having a battle here. I haven't seen that many all-ins yet. I suppose that's because they've still got so much to play for. There's the blind only 3 and 6. King Jack takes that one. Very interesting to watch this heads-up play. I don't get to see very much of it, so really watch this, guys. Watch and learn. Top pair for Dipler's. Flush draw for Odwy, 24,000.
Not just any flush draw, look, a straight flush draw. 4,
5, 6, 7 of diamonds. He's making it expensive for him. It takes it.
It doesn't hit.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yep, he does. Hits the straight. And pushes all in. Great hand, big pot. And look how fast this is. Do you see what I'm saying about speed? I mean, I know the feed that we get on the internet does sometimes change the speed, but just Dipler's called for another 60,000 or something, wasn't it? Immediately.
Without even thinking about it. Top pair.
No, not even top pair. He had a pair of queens. There was an ace on board.
Oh yeah.
I never get over this, honestly.
He thought about it, he may have changed his mind.
Wow.
9, 8, 7, 8, 9, pair of sevens. I think he's going to bet here. Yep. Dipless can't call. But now Odwy is well into the chip lead. So we have swapped positions here for our two players. Both hoping for good cards. Two very different hands. Ooh. It's very quick as well, isn't it? Very quick decisions to be made. You're in every hand, so it's different when you sit back a bit earlier on. Middle pair, Dipless. Easy enough. Takes 12,000 off Odwy. Trying to get some of them chips back. Suited ace for Dipless. 4-5 connectors for Odwy. Black calls.
Yep, good play. Hits the 3, checks it.
Ooh,
Time to bet out for Dipless. No. Doesn't make anything on the flush draw. Should have used his semi-bluff situation there. Now he's slow playing it. Now he wants Odwy to bet. Now he's going to raise. And that's a big raise. He's praying that Odwy's got a flush. I wonder whether a smaller raise might have taken some money down there. But he's going for the all-out effect, if you like, with his all-in, if that makes sense.
Creeping up slowly. So a proper battle going on here between these guys. Ooh, suited ace for Odwy, ace queen for Dipless. Call or re-raise Odwy. All in. Oh, he's going to get a call. Here we go.
Here we go. Hit the 4. He's hit the 4.
He's a queen.
No,
doesn't
no
come.
Club.
Wow, look at that.
Wow.
$470 to Dipless, but $739 to Odwy.
Fantastic, Odwy. Very, very like the seminal hand between TJ Cloutier and Chris Jesus Ferguson in the World Championships of 2001, I think, maybe 2000, in which TJ Cloutier, who is everyone's favourite to win, everyone wants him to win, he made the final table more than anyone. He's won more money in the World Series than anyone at that point, having not won the big one. And he moves all in with ace queen. I think there's a sequence of events. I'm fairly sure Chris Jesus. Maybe he moves all in with ace queen. I'm fairly sure Chris Jesus Ferguson calls in with ace 8, hits an 8 on the last card. And what did TJ did? He shook his hand and he said, "That's poker."
That's poker.
And he went off to the craps table. Probably not. Who knows? That's just my summarization.
So what did you think there of our heads-up play at the end?
It was good. It was very interesting. They played both played a good, solid game. I thought there was some good plays. Sometimes difficult to read too much into the play in such a short term. Sometimes we jump on certain things that players do because there are obvious sometimes mistakes that players make. But there was some nice subtle play there. There were some things that you might say, "Ooh, wouldn't have played it quite like that." Like when he slow played his flush, waited for the guy to bet into him, and then he came over the top. The guy had been not betting on any street at all, so it was very unlikely that bet on the end was a loaded bet from someone. But that's just my opinion at the time. Very, very easy when you can see everything from up here, isn't it, folks? Much more difficult from down there. So got a lot of respect for those two.
You do forget that sometimes, don't you, as well? That it's so easy to.
Of course, absolutely. Well, I mean, I always try and make an effort, not to run to discipline.
You always try and make an effort. You Cardi.
Do you know
Everybody's
what?
mentioning your
It's
Caspar
really,
tonight.
really,
your Caspar tonight, your cardigan tonight.
It's hit the zeitgeist. I might do it again.
I think you should.
I've got a much woollier one, actually, which I could wear. You see my woolly one? Really woolly, loose knit.
I think you should come in a tank top.
Let's read the email.
This is from Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Good evening, good morning to you, Tim. He says, "Hi guys, I have been playing now for a couple of weeks online, having not really played any cards before, apart from Newmarket with my gran, who incidentally knitted a mean jumper too, just like Caspar's. See? I started on the lowest limit cash games, and the first game did very well. The next game I lost a lot, fingers burnt. I decided more practice was required, so I'm now playing $2 tournaments, and today On my third game, come 21st with a $2.68 prize. Well done. I am chuffed. However, I got there by playing very tight, only playing ace king and other top cards, which are very thin on the ground. The ante and big value blinds eventually took their toll. Are there any tips you can give me to loosen up my game, please? Oh, and a handy hint, if you're playing on a laptop with a touchpad, disable the tap click so then you won't accidentally fold on that killer hand.
That is very important.
I'm sure I would have won. Damn that shaking hand. Oh well, cheers and keep up the good work.
Yeah, Tim, no, I think that's very important. Okay, so what we're looking for here is some little plays in certain situations. So here's a couple. Number one is obviously the classic, stealing the blinds. Where should we be stealing the blinds from? Well, late position now doesn't cut really much mustard. So you're only stealing the blinds from individual players who are the most likely to give up their blinds, and if you haven't got Poker Tracker and you can actually track the frequency of players to give up their blinds, then let's do it by observation. Let's start seeing who gives up their blinds to folds. Okay. Another thing that you can do is in later to middle position, not on the button so much, but later to middle position, re-raise a raiser immediately to your right, again, who you know is someone who plays a relatively solid game. Those players, if they're bone doggers, which is a phrase that we've used on this show before, I don't know if you've come across it.
I haven't come across it.
But it's a dog who can't let go of a bone, basically. So if they're bone doggers, then you might want to be wary of that. If they sat there for ages not playing a single hand and then they raise, they're probably not going to lay down their ace-queen. But if they're kind of reasonably good players who will play a hand and then lay down their ace-queen, then you might want to re-raise them with 7-2. Okay? If they call, you still got position on them. All right? So if they check and it's not a big flop, then you still want to make a little bet. These are the kind of moves that you want to do with some stack left, because unfortunately they can break you, but they can also be the kind of plays that keep you in the game. So the crucial thing is you need to pick players, and for that it's very, very simple and it's very, very difficult. The thing that you're trying to do is look for the players who will give up their money. And that's where poker becomes a game of, unfortunately, I hate to say the word, bullying. You're bullying those players who will give up their hands in those situations. Another play you can make is with those small pairs. You can make calls on the button, and you can also call with trash on the button in the hope, even if someone's made a little raise, like 2 times the big blind raise, call with trash on the button, and that can be quite intimidating. Particularly if he was trying to steal, he may check it to you if he misses, and you can take it for a bet on the flop. So there are a few different plays there. We've had a night where we were encouraging players to share their playbook with us, and it's always great to get different players' thoughts. And on a pro night, I went through a whole 20 of these. Me and Tom compiled a list of 20. Was it Tom? Maybe I was with Nick. We compiled a list of 20, but that's a couple to be going on with. But those little sneaky plays can make all the difference. But it's important not to confine yourself just to the pre-flop fold. Or another really lovely one, actually, is you get 3 or 4 callers in a hand. Basically, most of the time when people call, particularly if they call an initial bet, they don't have aces or kings. They may call in first position with aces or kings. Once someone's in the pot, basically they usually raise with aces or kings. So if you then make a significant bet, or if you go all in, say from the big blind, if you've got 3 or 4 callers in your hand, very difficult for anyone to call you. Very, very difficult indeed. So that's another play that does have a positive expectation, as long as your blind ratio to the amount of money in the pot is of a certain level. I won't go into those details now.
Can you do me a list, please, of your 20? Can I have a copy?
Yeah, well, you can dig out the tape from the archives.
Can you just write me a copy?
Yeah, all right.
Excellent. We have a text from Down the River.
Down the river.
He says, "Hi guys, loving your work. I've been playing at a reasonable standard for a while, but in my friendly game, a mate decided to play every hand blind and call everything. He actually won 3 times his money on the day, and I was wondering what your take is on this insane strategy."
Well, it's very simple. It reduces poker to a complete game of luck. Let's take an extreme scenario. If you toss a coin and you bet on heads, that is complete luck. You have no control over whether it's heads or tails, and therefore the outcome is based on luck. If you call every poker hand, it's luck. If you play poker, the reason why it's not luck, the reason why it's skill, is because you have the ability to make decisions. You have the ability to fold or do whatever you want to do. In that occasion, you can't do that, and therefore it's luck.
Excellent. Before we go to our break, we do have a couple of themes here for us. Eddie says, "Hi." Good morning, welcome back to Poker Night Live. Yes, we are still here for another hour, actually. Apologies for before the break. We're going to do that email again before we head back to our table. And that was from Eddie, and he said he wanted to be Huggy Bear because how cool was Snoop Dogg as the bear? And imagine him at the table, ultimate cool cat.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that, Eddie. And also, quickly, we have one here from Neil in Manchester. Good evening to you, Neil. He says, it's actually quite a good one, this one. Oh, whoops, I've clicked on the wrong one. It's quite a good one. He says he would like to be Darth Vader and win big with my mind-reading powers. Also, I wouldn't have any facial tells. Quite a good one.
I do think that having a force within you would make you a good poker player.
I'd rather be...
You could say, this is not the flop you're looking for, and things.
It's not the flop. I'd like to be, wouldn't you
it's
better
not a
be...
song. It's a quotation from Star Wars.
I know.
You've embarrassed both of us
I'd like to
now.
be Kenobi one.
Please let's go on with the game. My palms are sweating.
Is that wrong?
I think a lot of people are going to think a lot less of us after this interchange. Yeah.
Well, do keep them in. Our theme was what persona would you like to take on at a table out of the movies? And it had some excellent ones. My favourite one is still Baldric because he always has a cunning plan.
Yes, good. Excellent.
Darth Vader is quite good though with his
mind-reading powers. Yes.
But if you want to tell us who you'd like to be, and you were supposed to be picking one for me and you haven't, the text number is 62211 and the email is poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Now, we just finished watching a super multi-table tournament. We watched the last table. It was very, very exciting. Oddby won it and Dipstick come second. Was it Dipstick?
Hello.
And now we're going to go over to another cash game, so let's go straight there. So it's Kenobi, that's right, isn't it? Kenobi one.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan. I've watched all the Star Wars and I know it's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Once? Have you watched them once?
Watched them all once, yeah.
You're a bit of a sci-fi fan, aren't you?
I like Stargate. I like Star Trek. I like Stargate Atlantis.
Raise of 3 from Snowblind in first position with King 8 suited. It's not a classic first position hand, but I'll tell you what, it's taken down the money on this occasion, and that is good enough for Snowblind.
Yep, so this is a 50% $1 cash game. We were watching this earlier. Clay is still there. We've got Given. The Firebird was there earlier. Snowblind actually texted us in earlier. It's quite nice. Snap It's there. Benego and Cyberman, 31, top left. Not so bad, quite good chip stacks here. Bear in mind the maximum you can sit down with is 100. So Snowblind, Benego, Firebird and Clay are all up. Snap It, Cyberman and Given maybe up to... Given is up, obviously. Cyberman and Snap It could be up as well. We don't know what these guys started with, so... Do you play on the internet much, Cass, or are you more of a live player?
No, I actually am not playing at all right now because I'm devoting myself to other activities within my oeuvre. But when I play, it's all internet, to be honest with you. And I'll be honest with you, I just had too much experience of sitting in live games next to people that I would not go out for a drink with. And I just was asking myself, why on earth I was spending time with them in a card room. And I don't, to be honest with you, that's no one in this viewing audience because it's always a pleasure to meet them. And that's you know, one of the downsides of not getting out to card rooms more. But for me personally, I guess there are some unpleasant people in life generally, but there are certainly unpleasant people in casinos and card rooms around the country. I'm not saying around, well, in the world actually. Although I have to say I enjoyed myself much more in the card rooms of America. For some reason, I'm not entirely sure why that would be, but that was what I noticed. So, who do we have around this table? Shay Given, Ken Snap It.
Did actually just do this?
I'm a Cyberman. I'm not saying the names randomly though, like you do. You know how you just read them off the screen? What I'm doing is just wondering who I recognise.
Yeah, Snap It. Snowblind was playing earlier.
Okay.
Oi, you stick to the commentating, do you hear me, Barry?
I'm commentating on the names. I am picking out some key players for attention.
You don't know who the key players are yet, because I've only been watching it for a few minutes.
I have been watching this for the last 8 months of my life. Pair of aces for Ken, and
Blitz.
Shay given, maybe losing a bit with his ace-king here. Let's see how easy it is for him to release it. He's such a massive underdog. He says, I'm going to play it as a drawing hand in this situation, and that's great. He's missed the flop. Cyberman's hit top pair. Snowblind has hit top pair with a bigger kicker, and Ken's decided to check it round. Look at that. That's interesting. And now comes the raise, a real profit-maximising move from there, Ken. He's no dummy. He'll be quite happy to take it here and now, and he'll be quite happy to get a call. So there we are, a win-win situation. Does Snowblind rather fancy his 8, where Cyberman's laid it down? Let's see. Nope. Good play, Ken. And by Ken, I obviously mean Mr. Snappit. Now, the ace-queen. Significantly less good hand than aces, but still worth a raise, as indeed he has. And he's glad that Cyberman has called him. All right, Cyberman's got position on him, but he's got a significantly worse hand. They've both missed the flop. Will position pay out, or will it be an aggression situation? They both check it. Now, Ken can have a little pop at this, I think, now. We don't need to be worried about the flush. It's $9 in the pot. It's Cyberman showed a lot of weakness. As I say, I don't think we need to be automatically scared of the slow played big hand. On the turn there, I think that's perfectly acceptable to bet that. And by the river strategy kicks in, and it becomes an automatic check.
Button moves. Pair of twos on the big blind. Doesn't particularly want to see a raise. Nope, everybody seems to be folding away here. I've been considering...
Giving up.
No, I enjoy. I'm ahead.
It's a long-term game, though.
It's a long-term game, I know that.
Before we get to what you're considering, let's have a look at this hand, because we've got 3 twos, if you can snap it. Panego's got the flush draw, and Firebird's got top pair. So 3 great playable hands here. Ken is once again checking it. He's once again playing Tiger on the long grass. Panego has made a bet there, which I don't like, because it's a semi-bluff with 2 opponents, and I just think we're going to get a caller there, which with our flush draw, I think we'd rather take off the free card. And as it is, look, Firebird's raised it up, and Ken is a real great profit maximising situation now. Now, Panego's actually got to put 40 to call here into a pot of 74, so it's becoming correct, really. Flushes have terribly bad implied odds, as we know. There could be a bigger flush out. He only had, I think it was 6 high anyway. And he wasn't getting the correct upfront pot odds, so that's a good fold there from Panego after the initial bet. Firebird's got a decision to make here. Ken has check raised, a bet and a raise, and look at that, Firebird, now Ken's going to make some serious money. Now Firebird will really fancy his hand. Ken's brilliantly checked it, a really brilliant check, but yeah, Firebird is, Ken's still checking it. That's a really nice play from Ken. Or actually, no, sorry, I would have bet the river. I gotta be honest, I would have bet the river, but I think the turn check was very, very good. He read Firebird for top pair, and he checked into him. There we go. He's bet the river. He's check raised the river. All fantastic stuff. What we've seen there is Ken Snappit make a lot of money out of a little money in about 5 or 6 hands, all from playing clever check raising strategy. Is it always correct? No.
But will he have to mess it up a bit now? The others might see this of him. They might think, well, he's been check raising.
That's absolutely right. What Ken would be doing now is check his bad hands and get a lot of free cards. And by the way, I would make a point about what I'm doing if I'm snacking it in the chat box, just as I'd make a point if I was doing it in the casino. I'd make a point of saying it verbally. So getting a lot of free cards when he checks, which is great, and now he should be betting his good hands.
No, what I was going to say was...
Yes, what are you thinking of doing?
I play on 10-seater tables.
Yes.
And my dad was saying how he seems to be making a lot of money from the 5-seater tables.
Right.
But I don't know whether to give it a go or not. Is it just the same game but much quicker?
No, it's a very different game.
So it's worth staying where I am?
No, it's up to you. Sorry, Michelle, we will get round to this point. Another interesting hand taking shape, because we've got 3 hands on hearts there, 2 little suited connectors. on one with a big ace queen, and Ken's absolutely right to raise it up there. And is Firebird going to call him down? No, Ken's won again. Look at the respect that Ken's getting around the table now. And this is the time actually to not to check raise anymore, but to start betting out with some what might be considered to be substandard hands. Because he's getting so much respect, he can start to re-steal pots. He can actually raise razors and take hands there and then, which is great.
Well, threes there for Snowblind, ace 10 and ace 9. Well, I've got an email here from Pango, who I'm assuming is Pango on our table, maybe?
Yes.
But he's just maybe got the N and the A the wrong way around and can't change it.
Could well be.
Annoying. He says, evening, and this is from our theme of the evening. What persona would you take on from a film at the poker table? He says, I would be Marcellus Wallace from Pulp Fiction, because when he took a bad beat and went on tilt, he really went on tilt. You really don't want to outdraw him. That's fair enough. Thank you, Pango. Marcellus Wallace. Actually, we've got a few from Pulp Fiction tonight. It seems to be the film of the evening. Pango sitting there with $106. Oh, I think we may have some stats on this game. Let's have a look. We'll wait for the end of the hand.
3 sixes, clickety-click. Ace Queen, not much to speak of, given seeing this check raising with a 3 of a kind on the flop working plenty of times. He says, I'll have a piece of that. Firebird's obviously multi-tabling, because he's taking a very long time to make an easy decision. And Sideman checks it down there. Sorry, I looked away from the screen momentarily, but Given says, the check raise didn't work. Guess I'm going to have to bet out. Is Sideman going to give him the call? Well, Firebird giving him the call there with the inside straight draw, so immediately, folks, we've got to pin Firebird on something there. We've got to say what kind of player we think he is, as it is. Given's made a full house. And Firebird calling there for about a 5. I guess he was getting pretty good pot odds, actually, when it comes to it.
Okay, well, look, here's a percentage of hands played. What does this tell us, Caspar?
That Sideman is playing too many. A lot of hands being played there by a lot of people. Given, someone I like, playing 12% of hands. I'll tell you what else it tells us. Snap It is playing a third of his hands. Look at that now. Obviously short term, etc., etc. And Snap It's had quite a few good playable hands. Maybe Ken will contact the show and tell us whether that's standard for him at the moment, 30% of hands. It's certainly a lot. Whether he's using his nice tight image at the moment to bully a lot of pots, that's fantastic and more than acceptable. Or whether he's just turning into a loose fish, which I can't believe, having seen his great play today. Percentage of hands won. This is basically a measure of how lucky someone is.
No, it's not now, is it, Caspar?
It is.
That's how well they've played, how much they've won.
Not really.
You're going to get tea on your head again.
Well, that will scold and scar, and I will be able to sue.
No, it will make you wouldn't sue me.
Of course I would. If you scarred me,
anything.
in fact, I'd sue you if you just mildly slandered me, to be honest with you.
It'd make you look
And then
rugged.
they'd stop partnering us up, because it would be breach of court or something.
No, it wouldn't.
I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm saying that we probably wouldn't be working together, which would be good.
That's a really horrible thing to say. Why are you being mean?
Oh,
it's
it's so easy to be mean to you, isn't it?
James was mean to me the other day, taking the mick out of my ears.
And I would never do that, you know that.
Be watching James. I've got my polisher out for your head. Well, look at here. King, Queen, King, 9. Ooh! That's rather nice for Snowblind. But will he get paid? Firebird does have 2 pair. So he does have a hand. Will the paired board scare him? Snowblind's got position, which is also very nice.
Yeah, another interesting hand. We've had several interesting hands. You know, it's funny how it goes in swings and roundabouts, isn't it? It's just like, you know, you can have several. You can have a barren spell where you don't get aces and kings for a whole week, And we can see patterns in play here where, we just get some brilliant matchups from time to time.
It's nice when you get them all in a row because people stop believing that you've actually got the hand again.
But Firebird's calling him. He's got that top pair of the big kicker, and he doesn't believe Snowblind's got a 9. Unfortunately, I haven't been sitting here playing with Snowblind for a bit. Do you remember what was Snowblind's hand frequency? It was up there, wasn't it?
Oh, I can't
You've
remember.
been playing quite a few hands.
Actually, I think it was on the lower half.
Was it? So, Firebird's obviously got that to work with. Now he's checked Firebird.
Ooh.
And he's just going to call him. Snowblind just set Firebird all in.
Maybe Snowblind will put it
Snowblind
down
had to
for the
call
1
for a
cent.
cent there, yeah. And there you go, he makes his 2 pairs, but Snowblind makes the full house. So we say goodbye to Firebird for now. Today and only for today.
He may buy back in.
He may buy back in, as you so rightly say. Certainly he didn't do anything crushingly wrong there. I mean, should he have put it down? Of course he should. We can see from here. But they weren't huge bets.
That's a shame. Cyberman with jacks.
But then that's the danger of a paired board. And again, Tom and I spent several hours discussing just that situation the other night.
You and Tom spend a lot of time discussing, don't you?
Well, we do. Yeah, we had a good old discussion. Are there any more emails from people saying what film character they'd be?
I've got some emails here actually. Should we come back and do a couple?
Fantastic, let's do that.
Oh, sorry, I'll just knock all your bits and bobs over while I do it.
It's been a good night for that tonight, hasn't it? No, I mean, I don't want to be rude to us, but this has been chaotic.
I don't wish to be rude to us either,
No.
but it has.
Okay.
Well, I have an email from No Smith. No Smith. He says, "Evening, Caspar, and the very, as usual, Michelle." I think we'll just glaze over that part.
Tell you what,
I think
at least he
it's
hasn't
missed a
mentioned
word
my card.
Yeah, that's true. He said, listening to Caspar's talks about visualisation, i.e. Carl Lewis running a race in his head before he ran it, I found it very interesting. I play golf and pool, so I tried the theory of it, the shot in my head, and tried to play it, and was amazed by what it can do. My questions are, A, how do you apply this to poker, and B, where can I find out more?
Ah, a convert.
Yes.
A convert to the old visualisation, which is not something we've talked about tonight, just in case anyone's confused, but something we've talked about on previous shows. How can you apply this to poker? Well, you can apply the entire principle to the process of a tournament. You can see yourself winning the tournament, you can see yourself making great laydowns, you can see yourself staying calm under pressure, you can see yourself making excellent decisions, you can see yourself making bets with 7-2 offsuit that are so powerful that people are just going to lay their hand down because you're sitting there, you have the physiology and the body language of a winner. Visualise the end and then work back through the series of steps that are going to take you to that end. And what it does is it maps out a route for your body, for your physiology to follow. Are you always going to win the tournament when you do this? No. Does it improve your chances of making a good play and a good place in the tournament? Yes, it absolutely does. Where can you find out more? You know what, I've been caught on the hop there slightly because I haven't come with a bit of a reading list in my head. I'm going to reel off a couple of books that have nothing to do with poker now, but are really good to read for the hell of it. Okay, number 1 will be Shakti Gawain, Creative Visualization. S-H-A-K-T-A-I, Shakti Gawain, G-A-W-A-I-N, Creative Visualization. Number 2, The Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. Number 3, I would say read Unlimited Power, or what is it, The Giant Within by Tony Robbins. Number 5, I would read a book. I would read Monsters and Magical Sticks, which is about the use of metaphor within our mind. And number 6, you could probably try a book like Think and Grow Rich, or maybe Think and Grow Rich is by Napoleon Hill, or maybe Deepak Chopra, the 7 Laws of Success. So that's some reading list about using your mind and subconscious and the power of creativity They're all quite new agey books. There are some books that apply more directly to sports in particular, but going on that journey you will find very rewarding in all areas of your life, and particularly poker. Oh, the other one I'd say is Zen and the Art of Poker, and Howard Lederer recommends Zen and the Art of Archery. And I just bought a book by Deepak Chopra on golf. Haven't read a single word of it, but in which I imagine I will find things that I can apply directly to poker. If there's any books on the sports that involve stillness, like golf and darts and snooker and archery, I think you can apply all sorts of things from those to poker.
Thank you. And I recommend The Lover's Quill, Mills and Boon, when they all get too much.
Profound.
We have an email here from Gav in Leeds. Hello Gav, he says, over the last 3 weeks I think my strategy is wrong. I'm a tight aggressive player who on the most part only for the last 3 weeks has become undone on premium hands when I'm sure I've got the best hand. When I pass, I accept he's got a better hand. When I call, I'm normally ahead and get outdrawn. Like a 5-time, the big blind raise with aces, an early position, 1 re-raise, then all in I push. He gets called and gets outdrawn. Should I call?
Yeah, I mean, it's another of those emails, you know, about having bad luck. And again, I know it's kind of obvious, and I know you're not asking me to sprinkle magic fairy dust, but there's nothing I can do if you're having a run of bad luck. It is absolutely horrible, and actually, genuinely, you know what? Genuinely, my heart bleeds for you because I've been there, and because there's nothing I can do. Should you call with aces in first position? You should. If you can get all your opponent's money into the pot before the flop when you've got aces, that is the best situation you can have in poker. Oh, it's not the best. You can have the holy nuts, and that would be an even better situation. But it's all you can do. It's a winning play, and if he outdraws you once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, it's still correct to do it on the 10th time. That's all I can say. It's horrible. If you got outdrawn there 9 times, then it would be absolutely freakish. It's horrible nonetheless, but it's still correct to do it the next time, and I'm really sorry.
I have an email from here. Cowshed Tom says, hi Michelle and Caspar, I've been playing for a few months. My call with A7 suited, this was because we were watching him earlier, and he says, my call with A7 suited was based on that I could have knocked both players out. I thought someone would have had a better ace kicker or small pair. Even if I lost, I still would have had 50k plus in chips. Was it a bad call? Love the show, it's teaching me loads, and congrats on the award. And that's Tom from London. Thank you, Tom. Was it a bad call, he says?
Do you know what? I've got to be honest, I can't remember the whole context of
thing.
it. I'm really sorry, Cowshed. You know, for me, you played a good game. You didn't do anything strikingly wrong. I think if it had been a really bad call, I would have said so at the time. I think, you know, do you want to know something, folks? So much of what you do in poker is marginal, all right? And if the situation is marginal, don't beat yourself up either way. Now, we don't usually say that on Poker Night Live because we're so fixed on, this is what I would do, and that's what you would do, and this is what you would do, and oh, that's an awful play. But so much of it is actually marginal. There are some things that you need to do in poker to make a profit. And it comes back to what I was saying earlier on, which is you can get a 1% edge over this guy, but why bother when you can spend the same amount of time trying to find the guy who you have a 15% edge over? So, was it a bad call in that situation? It wasn't crushingly bad. There were certainly reasons why you should do that call, and that's often the case in poker. Is if we imagine a line graph, lots of different lines corresponding to the factors that you should call. You should call for this reason, you should fold for this reason. The lines will be all up and down like a graphic equalizer. Some will be suggesting that you should call, some will be suggesting that you fold. And then it's like you put all those things into a big computer, which we call your subconscious mind, or sometimes your conscious mind, and you come out with an answer. But because there's so much uncertainty, because you don't know what the opponent's face cards down are, you don't know what cards are going to come out, you don't know what he's going to do in response to what you do, there's so much uncertainty, you can never know anything for certain. On the balance of probabilities, was it a bad call? It wasn't catastrophic. It was fine. Played a good game. Well done.
Okay, we've got some themes here. Andy says, hi, I'm Michelle and Caspar, enjoying the show as always. As to which movie personality I would like to be, it's got to be Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas. Perhaps I would have lost most of my money, but I would sure have had a lot of fun. Or my fellow poker players, at least.
I would have a lot of fun with Elizabeth Shue when she was in her prime. Do you remember her Adventures in Babysitting?
No.
I bet you like that, didn't you?
Don't remember it.
Don't remember it?
No.
Elizabeth Shue. And
She was in Cocktail.
Yeah.
I knew that. David as well says, hi guys, for the female persona, persona, it would have to be Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct.
Of course.
Of course. That leg crossing moment would put me off my nut flush draw. David.
You read it out.
I want to read it first.
We're going to get fired.
Balrog. We're going to get fired. Balrog.
We will if they watch the show.
He says, morning, Michelle and Cass. Persona to play poker. As others have already done so, we'll take mine from TV. Basil Fawlty. No other reason than going on tilt would be brilliant. He says, Caspar Cardigan. Whilst I'm sure I'm in the minority, and admitting I'm not exactly Mr. Height of Fashion myself, I only think it right to point out that I do have reservations about the Val Doonigan look you're sporting tonight. To me, it isn't quite you, but rest assured, I'm certain I'm outnumbered strongly by those who like it.
I don't think you are,
mate.
I don't think you are. I think it was a crushing mistake, and all I can say is, as I said earlier on, I set off in the car, looked down.
The thing is, though, this is you, Cass. This is what you wear. This is your personality.
Are you saying I'm more of a sort of cardigan, Val Doonigan kind of guy?
Yeah. Than a suit wearer, that's fine.
I don't know what to make of that, really.
It's a good thing. Thank you, Balrog. What do you want? Do you want a serious question or some more themes?
I want some more themes.
Okay. This one's from Bob. Good morning to you, Bob. He
If
says...
you do that again, I'm going to kill you.
What?
It's morning.
Yeah, but they're saying good evening from when they sent them before 12. I'm thinking I'd be data out. I'm thinking I'd
This
be...
is in English, this email.
I'd be data out of Star Trek. Love the show, only been watching for a week, watch it every night now. Keep up the good work. P.S. What book was it you said would be good for a beginner? I think it's Skansky, wasn't it? Theory of Poker.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's quite heavy theory. I mean, like, you know, if you're a bright guy, then yeah, I think you can read it as a beginner. Data out of Star Trek, is he the one with the thing across his eyes? Because that would be good.
That's
I don't know. I know Data's one looks like David Cameron,
Geordie.
isn't he?
Actually, the guy that plays Data in Star Trek is now in Threshold, the Doctor. I can't remember his name.
You really shouldn't know these things. You've got to get out more, really.
Data's great.
Good-looking girl. If you go to a club, you'll meet someone, a lot of things will be better, or they'll seem better.
Why aren't things good at the moment?
I don't know, you tell me.
And then just a quick one here. We have got some serious ones, we'll do them a bit later, but it says, this is from Baseman Jim. And he says, currently playing my second sit and go. I won the first one. Congrats. My advice is don't drink red wine while playing.
Is that email taken 4 months to come through from when we were asking for tournament advice?
Could be.
It's good advice. Don't get me wrong, it's brilliant advice. Fantastic, Jim. Thank you very much. Listen, win your second one, all right? Win it for the... What's it called? Win it for the... What do they say? Win it for the... Oh, what's that phrase in American sports where you say win it for the...
Love.
No, there's something...
Cash.
Win it for... It's in a film.
Joy.
Win it for the...
Windows.
It's something to do with
Nick.
Richard Nixon.
Win
I
it for
don't know
Nick.
what I'm talking about.
Win it for the president. Win it for the jumper. Cardigan.
Brilliant for the cardigan.
We're going to go to a cash game. Let's have a look. And I've got a couple of emails we can do overwards as well. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm being Val Doonigan in his rocking chair.
Well, yeah, some good ones there, though. Hey?
We did, hey.
Hey? Right, so we're back in our 50-cent $1 cash game. Let's have a look. We've still got all the same players. Who's joined us? F12345 has joined us. Panego, who's actually Pango, we think. Snappet's still there, still looking strong. Given has been dealt those buttons. What does he do? He raises it up, 4 times big blind. Does he get a caller? Let's have a look. Queen Jack might come along for the ride, but maybe not. Snap it, no. 7-8, unless it's Mark sitting there. I doubt it. He's not going to get a caller with his aces, I don't think, here. Oh, it's an unlucky given. But if you'd slow played him, you may have been outflopped.
Outflopped.
Do you outflop much, Caspar?
No, I'm safely tucked up.
Ace 10 takes that one down. What do we got here? Flybird doesn't choose to play. Snowblinds raises up with 8-9. I think it'll be enough to take it. Yep, steals those blinds. 7-8, Mark Banning's hand. A $1 bet from Fibre took it down. So I think I'm going to be Sharon Stone then.
Okay.
And you can be Jetson, whatever his name is.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
That's fair enough. She's quite good for her age. She's a bit of a hottie.
Jetson, whatever his name is. Oh, okay. Kings beating a pair of 4s. That's poker for you, isn't it? 4's better before the flop, just. Now King's better. A cruel, cruel game.
Cruel game, but a very interesting game and a good fun game when you're playing it well.
But when are you playing it well? That's the big
When
question,
you're winning.
isn't it? When you're winning. That's when you're playing it well, is it? That is literally what you've learned from... A7, says Cyberman.
Wow.
Full house. There are no good hands, only good situations. As poor old Cyberman's finding out, Ken will not give him a penny. Not a penny.
Not a penny. That's a shame. Flopping the... You want 4 people to come in with big hands there, don't you?
4 big-handed people. You know what I say about big hands?
Big winnings.
Seriously, are you just going to sit giggling all night? Because
No,
we're going to be
reckon
taken
we're
off the
not.
air.
That's all right. The viewers at home are giggling along with us. Okay, Snap it might not be, but...
I don't mean on the grounds of competence. I mean on the grounds of taste and decency now. It's going to be taken off the air by Ofcom, not our producers. That's from the top.
Hang on a minute. Didn't you start it?
How did I start it?
You
Don't
said-
answer that.
Okay. Someone with a 2 would have a gut shot.
It's no good having a gut shot in the river, Michelle, is it? If you've got a gut shot in the river, you've really got what we call nothing. Do you lay your cards sometimes down and go, gut shot? At the showdown? I bet people have got a big star by your name on their player notes. Night Nurse, a.k.a. I've got a gut shot.
On the river.
Snowblind raises it up with King 10.
Hey, maybe I play a 6-8-handed game.
Good, excellent. Mix it up a bit, why don't you? Free form. Jazz.
Give me some jazz hands. Look at this. Ace King. Oh, sorry, that's your catchphrase, isn't it?
No, look at that is my
Oh.
catchphrase. Look at this, you can have.
Can
It's not
I?
as good, yeah.
Well, I still haven't got one.
Now look at that, you see. Ace King, suited, flops the flush. Is he going to get any play from this top pair? He will. Will it be all that he wants and more? He slow played it. Maybe a little check here to the raiser. Sorry, he's in second position to speak. I'm talking gibberish.
Everyone
He's in a
isn't worried
position to
about
raise.
that.
He's not at all,
Well,
is he? Now
should
the
we-
ace will slow him down a bit, unfortunately, but I'm sure Given will get some money. And this is a classic what's the profit maximising bet situation, because too much and F12 won't be scared of the flush, but he'll be scared of the ace. Too little and F12 will call it, but not enough. And I thought that was a good profit maximising bet there, I have to say, from Given. And what we mean by that is that F12 did fold on that occasion, but we don't know F12, we don't know what's going on in that person's head. He's a real person, he's a thinking, sentient being. He decided not to call for 15 on that occasion. I actually think that he would have called enough times on that occasion to make it more profitable than a bet of, say, 7, where he would have called every time.
He's not an inanimate object.
Correct. That's a good summary of my point there.
It's part summary of part of your point.
That is just about what it was. Ace 10 for Clay.
479. So a good point. What we were talking about earlier, looking at flops and working out what people could have.
Oh, we've gone serious, yep.
Yeah. Here, for instance, somebody
Yes.
could be sitting there with a 7 and a 9 and have 2 pair against you.
Yes.
So this is where you have to start thinking, right, okay, was there any raises before the flop? do I think any of these players would have called those raises with a 7 and 9? Do I think any of those players are holding a 7 and a 9?
Yeah.
Would they still be in the hand with a 7 and a 9?
Yeah.
Would they still be in the hand with a pair of 7s?
Yeah.
Could they be with the chips? Is this what should be running through your head?
Yes. All of
the time.
Can I answer an email from Ken Snappett prematurely? Is that okay?
email.
Just because I really like this email.
Oh, go on then.
Ken says, Caspar, now that I'm playing a few live games, I'd appreciate some advice on the most common tells. I just got Caro's book, which is Caro's The Book of Tells, widely regarded as one of the 10 books you should read about poker. But it would be good to hear from your experience. By the way, my stepdad wears a cardie just like yours. Nice taste. In
He's
brackets.
82.
He's 82.
So what does that
tell you? Had to get that
you?
in there, didn't you, Michelle?
You're like an old man.
Do you know what? I don't care
Have you got
what
slippers?
you and the whole country think.
Have you got a pipe?
am very comfortable in my own...
Have you got a tartan
Body.
cap?
No, but I have got some stinky socks and a walking frame.
Do you have a walking stick that you beat people with when you walk down the road?
Caro's Book of Tells is excellent. There's another book called Book of Tells by Peter Collett. Let me just give a summary of the 2 key points in Caro's Book of Tells. Saying that, my mind's just gone a blank, so let's hope that a couple of them emerge. First thing that Caro's Book of Tells, the reprint goes through, because it actually got stopped printed for a long period of time, which is quite bizarre, because it's one of the books that people really wanted to read. Mike Caro was one of the doyens of draw poker, for those of you that don't know. He wrote the chapter in the original Super System book on draw poker, and therefore he's widely regarded as one of the great body language experts in poker, because draw poker relies so heavily on body language. Draw poker is the poker you probably played around the kitchen table, where you get 5 cards, and they're all yours, and then you draw 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, or none of them. So Caro knew a bit about body language. In the reprint of the book, he has a section on Caro's law of loose wiring, which is interesting, not least because it sort of tempers what is in the rest of the book. In this section, he says that you could take exactly the same situation, exactly the same cards, and exactly the same player, put them in exactly the same situation, and they will do different things, just depending on tiny little elements of their almost sort of neurophysiology at the time. That's what chaos theory is based on in a way. So that's one of the points he makes. The next point that he makes is that players will very often be weak when strong and strong when weak. So what he's saying there is that players are terrified of being seen through. In other words, I said this before on air, but we've all had that experience where we're in a room doing something naughty as a kid, breaking something that we shouldn't be breaking, and our mum's come in, and we stop doing it, and our mum knows that we're being naughty. You know,
Yes.
you just sort of
Like when
stop
you've got a
doing
spoonful of
and you
sugar.
walk around pretending to be innocent, and your mum says, "What are you doing? You're being naughty." And because we're all sort of scarred by those experiences, we are absolutely convinced that people can see through our charades. Okay, so Caro's argument is that most of the time people are strong when weak and weak when strong. Now, body language, in other words, if they flop the full house, they'll go. The interesting thing about body language is that it's the prime example of dominant ideologies being subverted. Because, of course, if everyone then assumes that strong when weak and weak when strong is the case, then you might, when you hit a full house, you might start going, right, and pretending to have these suppressed things of joy, because people were saying, "Oh, he hasn't hit anything, he's pretending to be happy, yeah, he's going to try and bluff me off the pot." So it's the quintessential example of trying to equate your level of thinking with that of your opponent, which is something that Herbert Yardley talks about in Education of a Poker Player. In other words, trying to guess what hand they've got their coin in, whether they're double bluffing you, or whether they're treble bluffing you, or whether they're not bluffing you at all. So that's the second thing he says. For me, what I take from that is a third implication, which is that people are terrified of you seeing through them. So one of the biggest indications of bluffing, for me personally, is when people close down. So it's not about strong when weak and weak when strong, but it's that if they're bluffing, the one thing they don't want is for people to see through them, because that will cost them money, right? So they clam up and they get very, very still, okay? Because they don't want to give away anything. So they talk less, they look down, they don't want to make eye contact. They think if they look into your eyes that you'll see through them in some way. Conversely, people who have the hand are very relaxed, because if they make a bet, it doesn't matter to them whether you call them or not. They'd like you to call because they'd like the money in the pot, but if you don't call, they win it there and then, so they're relaxed about that as well. So when people reach behind them and take a drink or have a cigarette or something like that, they're pretty much strong. Okay, and that's all based on this premise that people are terrified of you seeing through them. Apart from that, there are a couple of excellent single tells in Carrows. I would say the best single tell is when the flop comes down, you absolutely must be looking at your opponent, because if you're, well, basically you need to look at your opponents because the cards on the flop will stay exactly the same in perpetuity. So take that moment to stare at your opponent's face and see what he does. If he carries on staring down at the flop, the one thing he's trying to do is change those cards into the cards that will match the ones in his hand. He's missed his flop. If he does this, he's seen exactly the cards that he wanted, he's hit his 2 pair, or he's hit his 3 of a kind, and in that moment he goes, oh, I should look at my opponent. And he looks straight up. That's a tell for life, by the way. If you put an invoice or a bill under someone's nose and they do that, they've actually seen the figure that they want to see, and they're perfectly happy to negotiate with you maybe, but if they don't get any further, that's a perfectly acceptable figure for them. Think about it. When you see what you don't want to see, you sit staring at it and screwing your face
Like
up.
the lottery numbers.
Like the lottery numbers.
Wait, stare at it for longer.
Yes, whereas if you saw your 6, you wouldn't really
be
stare at it
running
for very
around
long time.
circles.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. So there's a
It's
few
all
to be
really
going on with,
interesting
Ken.
stuff, though, and it would
Yeah.
really help in a live game, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean,
it does.
I had them in my first live game I ever played, where apparently every time I was going to fold, my hands were on my cards, and every time I was thinking about betting, my hands were in my chips. And very simple tell there, obviously, that you combat straight away, but for those people playing in a live game for the first time, very
Absolutely.
important.
It is very important. And what I'd say is I'm doing an amateur night on Saturday night.
With
I think
me.
with you. Is it you?
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent, fantastic. And then I'm doing a pro night on Sunday night. So whoever that's with, we may go into some details of body language on the pro night and really sort of bottom that out.
Yeah, it'd be good.
And if you want that, by the way, folks, do remind us, send some texts and emails to that effect.
Cool. Well, we have an email here from Sharon. It says, hi, enjoying the show. If I get outdrawn, I tend to actually get scared to play hands. I don't play like an idiot betting on everything, but I play almost nothing. Obviously, in a cash game, I can get up and walk away, but in a tourney, I can't do so. So what can I do to minimise the damage and stop myself getting blinded out? Any advice? Gratefully received.
You know what's interesting about this is we get so much stick, or I've had so much stick for doing the whole sort of psychological stuff, and yet so many of the emails that we get in is how do I ride through the dry spells, how do I play hands confidently, how do I overcome losing periods. It's all the same thing, and people are understanding that poker is so much about controlling your mind, and you can learn the cards and you can do all that, and you do need to know that. But actually, poker play day in, day out is about mental control, and I've said that since day one of Poker Night Live, and I don't know. For me, the more that people think like that, the better. Okay, really quick one here, because as I say, don't want to dwell on this tonight. Different shows are about different things for me. But what I would say to this is, if you see 8-9, if you see 10-4, and you want to play it, right, I want you to see, like a big bright picture in the middle of your mind, a pair of aces or a pair of kings. See something big and bright and chunky. And just like the guy who was applying visualization to his golf game, you will find that if you see a pair of kings, you dispel 8-2 from your mind. If you see a pair of kings as a big, bright image in your internal mental television, maybe make it bigger, maybe make it brighter, make it exciting, make the colours dance, maybe give it some sort of animation, bring it to life, create all the what are called submodalities. You don't need to know what that word means or anything like that. Don't get into the details. Just create a really exciting image in your mind. Your whole body will feel like you've got a pair of kings, and you'll feel confident again. What you're doing is you're seeing your cards in a very dim way. If you think about the way that you see those 8-2 and you see your cards at that point, it's quite cloudy. You're not quite sure about what you should do. You feel uncertain in your tummy, and it's impeding your play. So you need to start to change the way that you see and think about your cards. And I know it sounds stupid, and I know some people are turning off now, but the ones that
No, they're
aren't
not.
will be improving their poker game.
And also let us know if you do give it a go, how you get on with that. And we've got quite a long email here from Steve Taylor, Elvarian, but it's a bit of advice from him, so I'll quickly go through it.
Cool.
He says, having listened to your last few viewers, we had some bad beats earlier. And the first thing I would like to say is, come on guys and gals, this is for fun. And first thing, everyone remembers the bad beats with clarity, but tend to forget when the pack was on their side. I am glad that the player who has had bad beats for 18 months is retiring, bearing in mind that on probability, everyone will get the same cards and luck over the long term. I certainly don't want to play him again for the next next 18 months. Anyway, here is my method of avoiding big losses by tilting. I have identified how long I can take perceived bad luck before it starts affecting my decisions. For me, it is about 2 hours. No doubt it may be longer or shorter for others. Once you have identified this and things aren't going well, when you reach your threshold, stop. Simple. So as another point, if you are sitting at a table losing consistently, no matter if you are playing well and are losing to bad beats, you will be perceived as a poor player by the players at the table, and your raises will get called by more players than usual, increasing the likelihood that your good hands will get busted. Trust me, if you've been losing steadily for 30 minutes or so, gather up your chips and move to a new table. Start again with renewed confidence, and believe me, it really does work. Great show as always, Elveri and Steve Taylor. Nice email, I think, there.
Yeah, good stuff. He's right about the fact that if you have early losses, that will shape your opponent's opinion of you. It doesn't matter if you're a good player or a bad player, they're shaping their opinions based on your results, rightly or wrongly, probably both. So the best thing you can do is not panic, is not complain. If you want to get up and go to another table, well, this is the internet, there are 2,000 tables out there, that's fine. But you've got to work with it. You've just got to understand that people will call you down more. He's absolutely right. If that's a bad thing, then get up. If you think you can use that to your advantage, then do so.
And we've had an anonymous email saying, Caspar, you look strangely similar to Gus Hansen.
That's the cardie.
It's a cardie, and he's given us...
That's the effect of the cardie.
He's actually given me some websites I can visit to back up this claim. And so I'll visit them when we finish. He says, good show tonight, Caspar, Night Nurse. Whoever it is, he
I
does
don't think he's
know
watched
us.
it if he's saying that.
It has been a good show.
It's been a shocker.
To me.
My last one with Tom was a shock as well. I think I'm jinxing shows at the moment. It's bad.
We have an email from Lindsay. It says, hi guys, how's it going? Hope you're having a good night. I was watching the Australian Poker Millions on Poker Zone last night. It got down to the final table with 3 players left in, and there seemed to be quite a bit of chat around the table. It turned out that the 3 final players were striking a deal between themselves. What was even more surprising was that the tournament director then officiated this deal. The game then lasted for only a couple more hands, as they all obviously considered that they had constructed a win-win situation for everyone. I have been watching poker for about 6 months and have played in a few home games and have started playing online tourneys. I have grown to be a big fan of poker, and me and my boyfriend watch the programme regularly, and I feel that I have learned a lot. But this is an aspect of the game I wish I hadn't learnt about. It ruined the final table of the Australian Poker Millions and was a massive letdown. Surely this can't be in the spirit of the game and can't encourage people to watch poker. How often does this happen, and what are your thoughts on this type of deal being struck, especially at a big event? Thanks for all your tips and advice. I'm enjoying the show as always. And it's a really lovely point. It is a good point actually, because for people that are watching poker, they want the entertainment.
Yeah, but
playing, it's slightly different.
But you know, poker's very different to almost every other spectator sport or environment, because the players have put $10,000, $25,000 of their own money into the pot. So in poker, you don't pay their wages like you do in football. Yeah, they put it in. Now, when the day comes that you pay, well, deals won't be struck because it'll be one of the conditions of the tournament. But until that time, you're almost eavesdropping or you know, being voyeurs into the private activities of 3 consenting adults. Now, if that makes good entertainment for you, that's fantastic. But they do have the right, I think, to make a deal in that situation. Does it make good telly? No, it doesn't. But here's the key thing. What it's not is it's not about colluding. It's not about where 2 players say, look, I'll make a deal, you and me, and we'll cut out this guy and we'll try and close him down now. It's not about that. It's just about 3 guys going, look, the winner's going to make $1 million, second place is going to make 600,000, third place is going to make 400,000. Do you know what? I don't want the rest of my life to lose out on 600,000. So why don't we all take 680,000 now? Yeah? And I've got to be honest with you, I think they're entitled to do that. And this is with all due respect to you, Lindsay. It's not for us to say whether that's good or bad. It may have impeded your enjoyment, but that's not the point of poker really as it's played. And where I back you up completely is that the point is it's created a tension, if you like, for you as a viewer between what you wanted from poker and the reality of where it is at the moment. You want a great television spectator sport where it's all, you know, fantastic and American sports and pictures flapping around and coming at you, all sorts of things like that. I don't know what I'm saying.
No, I'm just smiling.
But poker players just want to play the game and they want to maximise their income, right?
Okay.
And at the moment, we're a very long way from poker being like Premier League or American football or all these nice polished television articles. there's a big gap, and all I can say, Lindsay, is that you're absolutely right to point this out, because this is the cutting-edge, hot topic of conversation around the poker tables of Las Vegas or Tunica, or even when the World Poker Tour goes around America. It is the conversation, which is, we're still in the dark ages, guys. We've still got to have a standardised set of rules. We've still got to have a governing body. We've still got to get sponsorship for tournaments, so our top players are on this tour and are receiving prize money like golfers. And we've got to get rid of things like deals. So you're absolutely right to point it out. But until that time comes, they've got to do what they've got to do.
Well, thank you very much, Lindsay. We have an email from Stu here that says, "Hi guys, I've recently started playing Limit Hold'em. Can you give me any advice on starting hands and betting strategies, please? I play no limit sit and goes usually, so use bets and raises to win pots and ask questions," which is right. However, in Limit Hold'em, this rarely has the same effect as the bet is limited, obviously. This leads to outdraws and statistical probabilities occurring in not nice ways, or bad beats as they are known. Should I always play the odds drawing hands in late position, or should I tighten up even more playing only premium hands? I play fairly tight, but run into problems with pre-flop raises, not weeding out players, so I still don't know what I'm up against on the flop. How do you do it, Caspar? And thanks for the help, Stu.
Well, I'm not sure I do, Stu, to be honest with you. I mean, I find exactly the same problems and frustrations that you do. I mean, we've said many times, limit poker, good in some ways, bad in other ways. But I tell you, the thing for me where... I'm going to say this now, I really don't want this to come across as arrogance at all. This is just where I got to, is limit poker was easy in the sense of I just knew what considerations were correct. And that is quite simply this, is something that applies to no-limit poker as well, incidentally, but so much more to limit poker, is I just know whether I'm playing a hand as a drawing hand or a made hand. In other words, if I've got ace-king in late position and I've got 4 callers in front of me, it's a drawing hand, and I will just call with it. And people who talk about raising with ace-king in that situation, as far as I'm concerned, are bats, because that's when you've just got ace-king and you need it to improve massively. Even just hitting top pair in that situation is not going to be good enough. And because in limit play we have so many multi-way pots, you've got to understand that so many of your hands are drawing hands. If you've got a pair of aces and 9 opponents seeing the flop, it's a drawing hand. You've got to make a full house with it. So I tell you what, we've run out of time tonight, unfortunately, to really give that question the time that it deserves. So maybe let's talk about that on Saturday night when we do the next show.
Tune in Saturday at 10. It's Caspar and I as well. By the way, 4King A there says, "Mine would be Peter Falk as Columbo, being able to appear totally incompetent whilst always being one step ahead his opponents, and have a hard time getting into my local casino with a raincoat, though." And he says, "I don't know who him outside the gut shot, Cass, but it wasn't me." Well, listen, we have to go tune in tomorrow night for the $10 rebuy tourney, cash games and tournaments, 10 p.m. We will see, well, we won't see you there, but there'll be 2 experts, professional night tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Good night.